I'm Jessica. Today, I want to share a personal story about my life. I'll talk about my tough childhood filled with family problems and how I found my own way. Growing up, I often felt invisible, like I didn't matter. My parents, Carol and David, were very different from each other and often argued loudly. Their fighting created a heavy tension in our home that lasted even after they stopped shouting. "Carol, why can't you see things my way?" David would yell, filled with frustration. "Because not everything you think is right," Carol would respond, her voice strong but tired. As a young girl, I found comfort in hiding in small corners of our house, holding a book or a doll, trying to be as unnoticeable as possible. These fights happened often and built a wall between me and my parents. But it was their divorce that really changed how I saw the world and my place in it. David left suddenly, creating a gap where a father should be. He quickly moved on, getting new partners and even having new kids. This made me feel even more like an afterthought in his life. "Jessica, it's just you and me now. We'll manage on our own," Carol said softly but firmly, trying to bring some normalcy back to our lives. Her strength was both inspiring and sad. Despite struggling to pay bills and working many hours, Carol's love never faded. She held multiple jobs, like waitressing and selling crafts at markets. Our home was small and we didn't have many luxuries, but Carol's love filled it with warmth and laughter. "Let's bake some cookies, Jessica. It will make the house smell nice," she would say on her rare days off. These simple moments became the best parts of my childhood, a happy contrast to how I felt ignored and neglected by David. As time went on, I realized how devoted Carol was to raising me. She was my anchor amid the emotional storms caused by David's absence. Each birthday he missed and every school event he didn't attend made me feel more abandoned. Tragedy struck during my junior year of college when my mother, Carol, passed away unexpectedly. Her absence left a huge hole in my life, making me feel even more alone. At her funeral, the many mourners around me only deepened my feelings of solitude. David, who had been so distant in my life, suddenly appeared. "Jessica, I'm so sorry, your mom was amazing," he said awkwardly, his voice unfamiliar. Despite our past, he helped with the funeral arrangements, giving me a small hope that we could possibly repair our broken relationship in the weeks that followed. As I tried to adjust to my new life without Carol, I thought about reconnecting with David. With his 50th birthday coming up, I saw a chance to bridge the long gap between us. "I think I'll throw David a big 50th birthday party," I told my friend Sarah while we drank coffee at a cozy cafe. The idea felt like a big step, like reaching out across the gap between us. "That's really generous of you, but are you sure? It's a lot of emotional investment," Sarah replied, looking worried. "It's what Mom would have wanted," I said, my voice mixed with determination and doubt. She always hoped we'd make up, and maybe this was a way to start. Preparing for the party helped distract me from my grief. I dove into planning, picking the perfect venue, choosing a menu that David would enjoy, and inviting all his friends and family. Every detail was carefully thought out, showing my hope for a fresh start. When the day of the party arrived, I felt cautiously optimistic. The venue looked beautiful, decorated with David's favorite flowers, and soft music filled the air. Guests started to arrive, their faces showing excitement and curiosity. However, as the time for David to arrive came and went, my anxiety grew. 30 minutes turned into an hour. Just when I was about to call him, my phone buzzed with a message. "Sorry, running a bit late, kiddo. See you soon," David texted. His casual tone didn't help ease the knot in my stomach. Finally, he showed up, but not alone. He brought his new wife, Lisa, and her son, Michael, who looked a bit out of place among my mother's friends and our family. The tension in the room was thick as David walked through the crowd, greeting people in a detached way. As the night went on, the initial warmth of the party faded into a strained politeness. I watched from a distance, feeling heavy-hearted as David interacted with Lisa and Michael, laughing and sharing stories while I remained on the sidelines. I was the event organizer, but felt strangely disconnected. The evening was filled with a mix of hope and disappointment, highlighting the stark difference between what I expected and what was actually happening. This moment became crucial in redefining my relationship with David. What was meant to be a gesture of reconciliation instead emphasized the deep divisions between us, setting the stage for a confrontation that would change everything. David's 50th birthday party was filled with a mix of cautious hope and celebration. Guests filled the beautifully decorated venue, but I felt nervous underneath my calm exterior. Everything had been arranged perfectly, the shiny silverware, flickering candles, and the soft chatter of familiar voices. It all looks lovely, Jessica. You've really outdone yourself, Aunt Maggie whispered, squeezing my hand for reassurance. Thanks, I just hope he appreciates it, I replied as time dragged on. Each minute felt longer as we waited for David to arrive. Finally, he arrived an hour late, visibly drunk, with Lisa and Michael by his side. The energy in the room shifted, and discomfort filled the air. Look at this place, Jessica sure knows how to throw a party when she wants to, David slurred, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. Lisa laughed awkwardly and glanced around. Yes, it's quite something. When I went to greet them, David leaned in, his breath smelling of alcohol. You really didn't have to do all this, kid, but it's nice, really nice. As dinner continued, an underlying tension grew. I watched David, Lisa, and Michael laughing together, sharing inside jokes that were often too loud. Guests exchanged uneasy looks, their polite smiles hiding their discomfort. When it was time for David to speak, the room quieted in anticipation. He clinked his glass and stood unsteadily. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight, especially my beautiful wife Lisa and my stepson Michael. They're my real family now. They make every day worth living. A murmur went through the crowd as my heart sank with every word. Then he added, and to my daughter Jessica, well, she's here too, always trying to make things right. But we all have our regrets, don't we? My biggest was probably saying, I do to her mother, wouldn't you agree? David's casual cruelty cut through the murmurs like a knife. My face burned as everyone turned to look at me with pity and shock. With my voice tight from emotion, I managed to say, is that really what you think, David? Oh, come on, lighten up. It's just a joke, he laughed, but the damage was done. The room fell silent, the festive mood shattered. Feeling a mix of anger and devastation, I made a quick decision. I think it's best if you leave, David. Please just go. David scoffed, fine. Come on, Lisa, Michael, let's go somewhere we're appreciated. As they left, whispers began, but amid the chaos, I felt a strange sense of relief. The evening ended not with the joy I hoped for, but with a clarity I didn't realize I needed. This birthday, meant to bring us closer, only confirmed the vast distance between us and marked the end of my attempts to bridge that gap. After the disastrous birthday party, the fallout was swift and harsh. My phone buzzed nonstop with messages from Lisa and Michael, each one more hurtful than the last. You embarrassed David in front of everyone. What kind of daughter does that? Lisa's message flashed across my screen, setting the tone for the blame and anger to follow. Nice job ruining Dad's 50th, Jessica. You really showed your true colors tonight, Michael added, his words like salt in an open wound. As the messages piled up, my resolve to maintain any connection with David and his new family started to crumble. The pain of his speech echoed in my mind, replaying during the quiet moments of the night. His jokes felt like deliberate jabs, undermining the fragile relationship we had. In the midst of this turmoil, David tried to reach out. His texts were a mix of awkward apologies and excuses. Jessica, I didn't mean it like that. You know I get stupid when I drink. Can we talk? Everyone says things they don't mean. Let's not let this ruin what we're trying to build. But what were we trying to build? His actions spoke louder than his half-hearted messages, revealing a truth I had always known but never fully accepted. Each message and attempted call pulled me deeper into a whirlpool of emotion. I longed for a family connection but also needed to protect my mental health. This internal battle was exhausting, leaving me drained and uncertain. One evening, sitting alone in my apartment with the weight of everything pressing down, I opened my journal and began to write. The words flowed out, messy and raw. Why do I keep doing this to myself? Why do I let him in only to be hurt again and again? That's when I realized that while the desire for familial love would always be part of me, it shouldn't come at the cost of my well-being. This realization was painful yet freeing. Deciding to take control, I responded to David with a finality that surprised even me. I need space. The things you said hurt more than you know. Maybe one day we can try again, but for now, I have to step back for my own good. Sending that message felt like closing a heavy door on a windy night, difficult but necessary. The immediate silence that followed was a relief, though the echoes of those hurtful words lingered. In the days that followed, I focused on healing and rebuilding the peace in my life that family chaos had disrupted. I spent time with friends who lifted me up, took long walks in the park, and rediscovered the joys of solitude and self-care. Slowly, my anger and pain began to fade, replaced by a cautious hope for a future on my own terms. In the weeks after my father's birthday, I decided to step back from David, Lisa, and Michael. While this choice was painful, it became the foundation of my journey towards self-reliance and personal growth. Detaching wasn't easy, it took conscious effort every day. At first, there were moments of doubt and loneliness, especially when my phone stayed silent in my small apartment. But I filled those silences with new activities that gradually transformed my life. I dove into my career, taking on new projects that excited me. The sense of accomplishment I felt at work boosted my confidence and spilled over into other areas of my life. I joined a local book club where I met people who shared my love for literature. One evening, my new friend Elena said, "It's so refreshing to discuss books with someone as insightful as you, Jessica." Her simple, sincere words highlighted the value of the connections I was building, connections based on mutual respect and shared interests, rather than family obligation. As the months went by, the pain of separating from my family faded into a dull ache, overshadowed by the vibrant new relationships I was creating. I learned to enjoy my own company, which made me more selective about who I spent my time with. With each passing day, I found peace in my independent life. Long walks became my meditation, and writing in my journal every evening helped me process my thoughts and emotions, turning chaotic whispers into coherent narratives. One evening, sitting in my favorite corner of my apartment with a cup of tea, I gazed out at the city lights. The bustling sounds outside brought a comforting realization: I was part of a larger world where I could make my own choices and shape my own destiny. I used to think being alone meant being lonely, I mused, but now I see it means being strong, content with who I am, and knowing what I want. The decision to distance myself from David and his family had been emotionally difficult, but it led me to a moment of clarity and contentment. I no longer felt tied to the painful dynamics of my past. Instead, I felt free to build a future that resonated with who I was and who I wanted to be. As I set down my tea and picked up a pen to jot down thoughts for a new project, a smile spread across my face. Embracing solitude had not only brought me peace, but also opened doors to new opportunities and experiences I never thought possible. Looking ahead, I felt excited about the chapters yet to be written in my life, confident that I was on a path of my own making. The peace I found in solitude was profound, a testament to the strength that comes from choosing oneself. I was eager to see where this newfound independence would lead me. As we conclude Jessica's journey of self-discovery and personal growth, it raises a thought-provoking question: is cutting ties with family members a valid option for protecting one's mental health? Or should family always be preserved, no matter the emotional cost? Please share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if you found Jessica's story compelling, and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Your support helps us continue to share these narratives.
The call came at 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I remember because I was staring at my computer screen, reviewing fertility clinic payment plans for the 1,000th time. My phone lit up with my mother's name, and for a moment I considered letting it go to voicemail. I'm Ingrid, and that call destroyed everything I'd spent 6 years building. Ingrid, thank God you picked up. My mother's voice cracked with panic. It's Hazel. She's in the hospital. They're saying she needs emergency surgery right now. My stomach dropped. Despite our differences, Hazel was still my little sister. What happened? Which hospital? St. Mary's. The doctors found some kind of infection. It's spreading fast and the insurance won't cover the procedure. We need help, sweetie, right now. I pressed my palm against my forehead. How much? 30,000. I know it's a lot, but she could die, Ingrid, please. The number hit me like a physical blow. 30,000, my IVF fund. Every extra shift, every overtime hour, every birthday check from relatives, all of it carefully saved for my last chance at motherhood. Mum, that's my... I know what it is. She cut me off, her voice breaking. But this is your sister's life. You can save again. please, the doctors are waiting for payment confirmation before they'll proceed. My hands were shaking as I pulled up my banking app. 6 years of hoping, of planning, of doctor's appointments telling me my window was closing. All of it about to vanish with a few taps on my phone. Ingrid. My mother's voice grew sharp. Are you there? I'm transferring it now, I said quietly. Send me the account details. After the transfer, I sat in my silent apartment staring at the confirmation screen. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Thank you, sweetie. You saved her. We'll keep you updated. I called the fertility clinic to cancel my upcoming consultation. The receptionist's voice was gentle when I explained. I'm so sorry, Ms. Harrison. Should I note this as a temporary postponement? No, I whispered. Just cancel it. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept checking my phone for updates about Hazel's condition, but nothing came. I called the hospital the next morning. I'm calling about my sister, Hazel Harrison. She was admitted yesterday for emergency surgery. There was a pause. I'm sorry, we have no record of a patient by that name in the last 48 hours. That's impossible. St. Mary's, right? Emergency surgery for an infection? No one by that name, ma'am. Are you sure it was this hospital? I hung up and called 3 other nearby hospitals. Same response. My hands were trembling as I opened Instagram, searching for Hazel's profile. Her last post was from 8 hours ago, a mimosa brunch photo with her friends. She looked perfectly healthy, laughing in designer sunglasses. I scrolled back through her feed. 2 weeks ago, she posted poolside photos from the Four Seasons spa. Sometimes you just need to treat yourself now. Self-care. Spa day. Yeah, I'm blessed. The dates aligned perfectly with when my money had disappeared. I called my mother again, straight to voicemail. I texted, tried calling St. Mary's. They have no record of Hazel. Want to explain? 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Finally. Call me later, sweetie. There's been a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. $30,000 of misunderstanding. I opened my bottom desk drawer and pulled out the folder of fertility paperwork I'd collected over the years. The latest doctor's note was clear. Given patient's age and condition, recommend beginning IVF treatment within next 6 to 8 months for optimal chances of success. My phone buzzed again. A text from Hazel. Hey sis! Mum said you helped me out of a tight spot. You're literally a lifesaver. Dinner soon? My treat. I stared at those cheerful emojis until my vision blurred. 6 years of saving, of hoping, of planning for my future, gone in a single afternoon of lies. My sister was at a spa while I cancelled my last chance at becoming a mother. That's when something inside me shifted. Something hard and cold settled into place where my heart used to be. I opened my laptop and started a new document. At the top, I typed, evidence of fraud. If they wanted to play games with my life savings, fine. But I was done being the quiet, understanding sister. Done being the responsible one who sacrificed everything while Hazel took and took and took. I was going to find out exactly what happened to my money. And then I was going to make sure everyone knew exactly what kind of people my family really were. My phone buzzed again. Mum. Family dinner on Sunday? We need to talk. Yes, I thought. We certainly do. I hadn't planned to find the bank statement. I was just dropping off some old photo albums my mother had asked for, using my emergency key while they were out at their weekly bridge game. The envelope was sitting there on the kitchen counter, torn open, Hazel's name clearly visible through the window. Something made me pause. Maybe it was the casino logo in the corner. My hands trembled as I pulled out the statement. Column after column of withdrawals from Golden Gates Casino and Resort. 25,000 in a single month. The dates lined up perfectly with my emergency transfer. My phone buzzed. Jameson, my oldest friend, still on for coffee? I snapped a photo of the statement and grabbed my keys. 20 minutes later, I was sitting across from him at our usual cafe, sliding my phone across the table. Look at this! His eyes widened as he scrolled. Jesus, Ingrid, is this what I think it is? My sister's gambling away my IVF fund while my parents cover for her? Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Have you confronted them? I wrapped my hands around my coffee cup, seeking warmth. I tried. Mum keeps saying there's more to the story. Dad won't even take my calls. What are you going to do? I'm going to find out everything. I pulled out my laptop. Help me. We spent the next 3 hours digging. Public records, social media, anything we could find. Hazel's Instagram told one story: designer clothes, luxury vacations, champagne brunches. But her public records painted another. 3 maxed out credit cards, 2 personal loans in default, a pending eviction notice. Look at this, Jameson pointed to his screen. She's been posting about her medical recovery to extended family, complete with fake hospital photos. I leaned in. There was my cousin Julia commenting, "So glad you're feeling better. We were all so worried." "They're all in on the lie," I whispered. "Everyone except me." That night, I drove back to my parents' house. They were home this time, and my mother's face fell when she saw me at the door. "Sweetie, now's not a good time." I held up the bank statement. "Want to try telling me the truth?" She glanced behind her, then stepped onto the porch, closing the door. "You don't understand. Hazel's been struggling." "With what? A gambling addiction? Or just being a spoiled brat who knows Mommy and Daddy will always bail her out?" "Lower your voice," she hissed. "The neighbours." "The neighbours what? Might find out your perfect daughter isn't so perfect?" The door opened, and my father stepped out. "Ingrid, please, come inside. We can discuss this like adults." Inside, my mother paced while my father sat heavily in his recliner. I remained standing. "Where's my money?" "Gone," my father said quietly. "Hazel needed to pay her gambling debts, I know. What I want to know is why you lied. Why the elaborate story about emergency surgery?" My mother wrung her hands. "We knew you wouldn't understand. You've always been so rigid about money, and Hazel was in real trouble." "And I wasn't? That money was my last chance at having a child." "Don't be dramatic," my mother snapped. "You can always save again. Hazel needed help now." I pulled out my phone and played the voicemail I'd saved. Hazel's voice filled the room. "Mum, I swear this is the last time. Just help me figure out how to get the money, and I'll never gamble again. I promise." The timestamp was 3 days before their emergency call to me. My mother's face went white. My father wouldn't meet my eyes. "You planned this," I said softly. "You knew exactly what you were doing when you called me that day. You knew about her gambling, about the debts, everything. And you decided my future was worth sacrificing to save her. Again." "She's your sister," my father pleaded. "Not anymore." I walked to the door, then turned back. "One more thing. I talked to Julia today, told her everything. She's going to tell the rest of the family what really happened to my money. No more fake hospital photos, no more lies." My mother lunged forward. "You can't! Watch me." Outside, my phone buzzed with a text from Hazel. "Mom says you're being difficult about the money thing. Can we talk?" I typed back, "Sure, let's talk about Golden Gates Casino. Or should we discuss those forged medical documents you've been showing the family?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared. Then, "Please don't do this." But I was already doing it. I had nothing left to lose. They'd taken everything else. Now it was my turn to take something. Their carefully constructed facade of the perfect family. My phone buzzed again. "Jameson. You okay?" "No," I replied. "But I will be. Want to help me plan something special for Thanksgiving?" "Tell me about your relationship with your sister," Dr. Morris said, tapping her pen against her notepad. It was my 3rd therapy session, and I was finally ready to dig deeper. "Which version? The one where we're the perfect sisters my mother pretends we are, or the truth?" "Let's start with the truth." I shifted in the leather chair. 2 days ago, Hazel showed up at my apartment crying, mascara running, the whole show. She does this thing where she makes herself shake, like she's about to fall apart. "And how did that make you feel?" "Nothing." I felt nothing. I smiled, remembering. That's new for me. The session helped, but what really kept me going was my plan. Small steps, carefully chosen. First, I'd messaged Skylar, Hazel's former best friend, with proof of the gambling debts. "Thought you should know why she borrowed money from you last year and never paid it back." Skylar's response was immediate. "That bitch told me her mum had cancer." The dominoes were falling, one by one. Later that evening, Jameson came over with takeout. He'd been checking in more often since everything happened, and I found myself looking forward to his visits. "Your sister called me today," he said, passing me a container of pad thai. I froze. "What?" Wanted to know if I could talk some sense into you. I told her to lose my number. You didn't have to do that. He looked at me seriously. Yes, I did. What they did to you, it's unforgivable. My phone buzzed. Mother. Hazel's really struggling with what you've been saying about her. Please stop this vendetta. I showed Jameson the text. See what I mean? I'm always the villain in their story. Then write your own story, he said simply. The next day, I ran into Hazel at the grocery store. She was wearing oversized sunglasses, probably to hide her hangover. Ingrid! She rushed over, grabbing my arm. Please, can we talk? I've been trying to reach you. I looked down at her hand until she let go. Okay, talk. Not here. She glanced around nervously. Coffee? 20 minutes later, we sat in a corner booth. Hazel stirred her latte endlessly, not drinking it. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know what I did was wrong, but I was desperate. The casino guys were threatening to tell Mom and Dad everything. So you let them steal my money instead. They didn't steal. You took my IVF fund under false pretenses. That's theft, Hazel, and fraud, given the fake medical documents you created. She paled. How did you... I found everything. The forged hospital papers, the fake photos, the rehearsed calls with Mum planning how to convince me, everything. I'll pay you back, she promised quickly. I just need some time. I laughed, the sound harsh even to my ears. With what money? The new credit card you just opened in Mum's name. Her cup clattered against the saucer. How did you... I have access to everything now, Hazel. Every lie, every scheme, every person you've manipulated. Did you really think I'd just let this go? What do you want from me? Her voice cracked. Nothing. I don't want anything from you ever again. I just wanted you to know that your comfortable little world of lies is about to collapse. Please, she grabbed my hand. I'll get help. Real help this time. Just don't tell everyone. You'll destroy the family. I pulled my hand away. The family was destroyed the moment you and Mom decided my future was worth sacrificing for your gambling debts. That evening, my mother called 6 times. I let each call go to voicemail, then played them for Jameson when he came over. Ingrid, please call me back. Your sister is very upset. Ingrid, this has to stop. Ingrid, why are you being so cruel? Jameson shook his head. They really don't get it, do they? They never will. I showed him my laptop screen. But look what I found. Hazel's been running this scam for years. 3 other relatives, all given different sob stories, all paid out thousands. What are you going to do with that information? I smiled. Save it for Thanksgiving. Mum's already started calling everyone, insisting we all need to be there this year. For healing, she says. Are you sure about this? He looked concerned. Once you do this, there's no going back. There's already no going back. They made sure of that when they stole my future. I closed my laptop. Besides, the truth was always going to come out eventually. I'm just making sure it happens on my terms. My phone buzzed again. Dad this time. Your mother's worried sick. Please stop whatever you're planning. I turned off my phone and looked at Jameson. Want to help me prepare a very special Thanksgiving presentation? He smiled. I thought you'd never ask. The Thanksgiving invitation arrived by mail, handwritten on expensive cream paper. My mother's perfect cursive spelled out her desperation. Family means forgiveness. Please come home for healing. I called Jameson immediately. It's happening. She's invited the whole family. You sure you want to do this? It's going to be nuclear. Already borrowed the projector from work. I paused. You'll still come with me, right? Wouldn't miss it. Someone needs to film the aftermath for Reddit. I laughed, but it died quickly when my phone buzzed. Hazel. Mom says you're coming to Thanksgiving. I knew you'd forgive me. I didn't respond. Let them think they won. Let them believe I'd fallen back in line like always. The next morning, my mother called while I was at work. Sweetie, I'm so glad you're coming. And listen, I've been thinking, Hazel's still having a hard time. Maybe you could help her with just a small loan. Stop right there, I cut her off. You're seriously asking me for more money? Not asking, just suggesting. She's your sister, and family helps family. Like you helped me by stealing my IVF fund. Silence then. That's not fair. We had no choice. There's always a choice, Mom. You just made the wrong one. After hanging up, I called Julia, my cousin. Are you going to Thanksgiving? Wouldn't miss it. especially after what you told me about Hazel's medical emergency. Did you know she pulled the same scam on Uncle Robert last year? Different story, same result. How much? 15,000. Said she needed surgery for endometriosis. I added it to my growing file of evidence. The pattern was clear. Hazel targeted family members, created elaborate medical emergencies, and my parents helped sell the lies. That evening, Jameson came over with dinner and disturbing news. I found something, he said, pulling out his laptop. Remember when Hazel claimed she had those medical documents? Look at this. He showed me a website selling blank hospital forms. In Hazel's browser history, multiple purchases. She didn't just lie, I whispered. She committed actual fraud. There's more. He opened another tab. She's been doing this to friends too. Remember Skylar? Found 3 others who loaned her money for various emergencies. My phone buzzed. Dad. Your mother's planning the seating chart. Says you're bringing a friend. Yes, I texted back. Jameson's coming. Maybe we should talk before Thursday, clear the air. I showed Jameson the text. They're getting nervous. They should be. What you have here, it's not just family drama, it's criminal. I closed his laptop. That's exactly why it needs to come out. They're not going to stop otherwise. The next day, my mother showed up at my office unannounced. We need to talk, she said, sitting down without waiting for an invitation. I'm working. This is more important. Whatever you're planning for Thanksgiving, please don't. Think of your sister's reputation. I looked up from my computer. Like you thought about my future? That's different. You can always try again for a baby later. No, I can't. I pulled out my latest medical report. My doctor says the delay means my chances are now less than 5%. But you didn't bother to ask about that, did you? She pushed the paper away. Hazel needed help. Hazel needed consequences. Instead, you helped her steal from me, lie to everyone, and now you're here trying to protect her again. Because she's fragile. You've always been the strong one. Get out. Ingrid, get out. After she left, I called Jameson. They know something's coming. Mum just tried to stop me. Having second thoughts? I thought about my empty savings account, about the doctor's face when I cancelled my IVF appointment, about years of watching Hazel take and take while I was expected to give and give. No second thoughts. Just make sure your phone is charged for Thursday. This is going to be a Thanksgiving they'll never forget. My phone lit up with a text from Hazel. Can't wait to see you Thursday. I have a surprise for you. I smiled grimly. Oh, sister. So do I. That night, I finished organising my evidence into a perfect digital presentation. Bank statements, forged documents, social media lies, voice recordings, all of it arranged for maximum impact. Let them think I was coming to make peace. Let them believe their perfect family facade would stay intact. Thursday couldn't come soon enough. Thanksgiving morning dawned cold and grey, perfect weather for burning bridges. I checked my bag one last time. Laptop, projector, backup drive, and printed copies of everything, just in case. Ready? Jameson asked from my doorway. Almost. I pulled out my phone and checked my latest messages. Mum, made your favourite apple pie. Everyone's so excited to see you, Hazel. Wearing my cutest outfit to celebrate family healing. Julia, I'm here early. You won't believe who else Hazel scammed. I grabbed my coat. Let's go destroy a family gathering. The drive to my parents' house was tense. Holiday traffic gave me too much time to think, but Jameson kept me focused. Run through the plan again, he said. Wait until after the main course. People are always more dramatic on full stomachs. Start with the bank statements. Build to the forged documents. End with the voice recordings. Then walk out while everything burns. We pulled up to the house at exactly 2 p.m. Cars lined the street. Seemed like the whole family had shown up for the show. They just didn't know it yet. My mother opened the door before we could knock. Ingrid! And Jameson, so lovely to see you both. Her smile was too bright, too forced. Inside, the house smelled like turkey and tension. Hazel was holding court in the living room, surrounded by aunts and cousins. She jumped up when she saw me. Sis, you came! She moved to hug me, but stopped when I stepped back. Wouldn't miss it, I said, patting my bag. Julia appeared at my elbow. Need help setting up anything? She whispered. After dinner. Keep Hazel drinking. She's always sloppier with her lies when she's tipsy. The next hour was excruciating. Relatives kept trying to orchestrate healing moments between Hazel and me. Uncle Robert, still unaware she'd scammed him too, kept saying how nice it was to see the sisters together again. My father caught me in the hallway. "Whatever you're planning, please don't. Your mother's heart can't take it." Funny how her heart never had trouble taking my money. Dinner was served at 3:30. 16 people around the extended dining table, all passing dishes and making small talk. Hazel dominated the conversation, telling some story about her latest charity work. The irony was thick enough to choke on. My phone buzzed under the table. Jameson. "Projector's ready in the living room. Just say when." Mum stood up, tapping her glass. "Before dessert, I want to say how thankful I am to have everyone here, especially my girls. Family forgiveness is so important." "Speaking of forgiveness," I cut in, standing up, "I have something to share with everyone. In the living room." My mother's face went pale. "Ingrid, please." "It'll just take a few minutes," I smiled. "Hazel, you'll want to be there for this." The family shuffled into the living room, curious and unsuspecting. Hazel perched on the armrest of the sofa, wine glass in hand. My mother kept trying to catch my eye, but I focused on connecting my laptop. The first slide appeared on the wall, a bank statement showing my IVF fund transfer. "So," I said, my voice steady, "let me tell you a story about family, forgiveness, and fraud. Stop this right now." My mother stood up. "Sit down, Mum. Everyone needs to hear this, especially Uncle Robert. Don't you want to know what really happened to your $15,000? The room went silent. Hazel's wine glass slipped from her hand, staining the carpet red. "You see," I continued, clicking to the next slide, "my sister has been running quite the operation. Different stories for different relatives. Sometimes it's emergency surgery. Sometimes it's cancer treatments. Always urgent, always requiring immediate cash." Julia stood up. "She told me she needed money for life-saving antibiotics." "She told me it was for emergency dental surgery," another cousin added. Hazel started to cry. Right on schedule. "But here's the best part." I clicked again, showing the casino statements. "Want to guess where all that money really went?" "This is private family business," my mother shouted. "No, Mum, fraud isn't private. Neither is theft. Neither is forgery. Right, Hazel? Should we show everyone the fake hospital documents you bought online?" The room erupted. Relatives jumping up, pointing fingers, demanding explanations. My father slumped in his chair, looking ancient. Hazel ran for the bathroom. My phone buzzed again. Jameson. "Time for the recordings?" But before I could respond, my mother screamed, "I'm calling the police!" "Go ahead," I said calmly. "I have copies of everything, including the new credit card Hazel opened in your name last week. Should we talk about identity theft too?" The silence that followed was deafening. I looked around the room, at all the shocked faces, the dawning understanding, years of lies unravelling in minutes, and we hadn't even gotten to dessert yet. "Play the recordings," I said to Jameson. The room was still reeling from the last revelation, but I wasn't done, not even close. He pressed play, and my mother's voice filled the room. "Of course we'll get the money from Ingrid. She's been saving forever. She can start over. Hazel needs this now." Hazel's voice followed. "But what if she checks the hospital?" "Mum." "She won't. She trusts us. That's why this will work." My mother lunged for the laptop. "Turn it off." "Sit down," Julia snapped, blocking her path. "We all need to hear this." The recordings continued. Call after call, plotting how to convince me, rehearsing their emergency story, laughing about how I'd always been a soft touch when it comes to family. Uncle Robert stood up, his face red. "You told me you needed emergency surgery for a brain tumour. I took out a second mortgage." "I can explain." Hazel emerged from the bathroom, mascara streaked down her face. "I was desperate." "You were gambling?" I clicked to the next slide. "Here's your player's card history from Golden Gates Casino. Look at those numbers, everyone. Recognise any of them? The exact amounts you all loaned her?" Aunt Sarah gasped. "The money I gave you for your supposed cancer treatment went straight to the blackjack tables," I finished. "Along with my IVF fund. Along with Uncle Robert's second mortgage. Along with—" "Enough!" my father shouted, standing up. "This ends now." "You're right, Dad. It does end now. But first," I clicked again, "let's talk about the credit card fraud." The screen showed a credit card application in my mother's name, with Hazel's email address. Want to explain this, Mom? Or should I? Because the credit card company's fraud department was very interested when I called them yesterday. My mother sank into a chair, all colour draining from her face. You didn't. I did. They're launching a full investigation. Apparently, this isn't the first card Hazel's opened in your name, is it, sister dear? Hazel broke. They were going to break my legs. The casino guys. I owed them so much. Mom knew. She helped me fill out the applications. The room exploded again. Relatives shouting, accusations flying, years of deception unravelling in real time. Julia stood up. I want my money back. All of it. Me too, Uncle Robert growled. There is no money, I said quietly. It's all gone, isn't it, Hazel? She nodded, sobbing. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't pay my mortgage, Uncle Robert snapped. My mother tried one last time. Please, everyone. We can work this out as a family. Family? I laughed. Let me show you what family means to you. I pulled up my medical records. See this? My doctor's final report. Because of the delay in treatment, my chances of successful IVF are now practically zero. You didn't just steal my money, you stole my chance to have a child. We didn't know, my father started. You didn't care to know. You never asked. Just like you never asked Uncle Robert if he could afford that second mortgage, or Aunt Sarah if she needed that retirement money you convinced her to give Hazel. Aunt Sarah stood up, grabbing her purse. I'm calling my lawyer tomorrow. No, please, Hazel begged. I'll find a way to pay everyone back. With what? Julia demanded. More stolen money? More lies? I'm getting help, Hazel whispered. I started seeing a therapist. For anxiety, I cut in. Not for gambling. Another lie to add to the pile. My mother suddenly stood up. Everyone out! This is still my house. Actually, I clicked one final time. Is it? Because I found some interesting documents about your mortgage too. Seems like Hazel's been busy there as well. The silence was absolute. My father's voice shook. What did you do, Hazel? But Hazel was already running up the stairs, her sobs echoing through the house. I started packing up my laptop. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. The truth was served instead of dessert, but I hope it was filling enough. You've destroyed this family, my mother whispered. No, Mom. You and Hazel did that. I just turned on the lights so everyone could see what was really happening in the dark. Jameson appeared at my side, car keys in hand. Ready? I looked around the room one last time, at Uncle Robert calling his lawyer, at Aunt Sarah crying in the corner, at my father, aged 10 years in an hour, staring at nothing. Yeah, I said. I'm ready. As we walked out, Julia followed us. That was incredible. Terrible, but incredible. The truth usually is, I replied. Behind us I could hear my mother's wails, the continued shock and anger of relatives, the sound of a family imploding. But for the first time in months I felt light, free. The truth had cost me my family, but they'd cost me something far more precious first. The aftermath hit social media before we even made it back to my apartment. My phone buzzed constantly with notifications as family members shared their versions of what happened. Look at this, Julia texted. Hazel's posting that you doctored all the evidence. I checked Facebook. Sure enough, there was Hazel's desperate attempt at damage control. Heartbroken that my own sister would create such horrible lies about me, the truth will come out. Jameson read it over my shoulder and snorted. The truth already came out. That's what she's really upset about. My phone rang. Uncle Robert. The police are involved now, he said without preamble. Your mother's trying to claim you hacked their accounts or something, but the fraud department already confirmed everything you showed us. How bad is it? Bad? Your father's talking about divorce. Aunt Sarah's lawyer is filing charges tomorrow, and Hazel, well, seems she's done this to more people than we knew. I sat down heavily on my couch. I'm sorry you all got caught up in this. Don't be. We needed to know, he paused. I wish I'd known before I took out that mortgage. After we hung up, Jameson brought me tea and sat close beside me. The warmth of his shoulder against mine was oddly comforting. You okay? He asked softly. No. Yes. I don't know. I checked my phone again. More messages, more family drama unfolding in real time. I didn't expect it to feel like this. Like what? Empty, satisfied but hollow. My phone buzzed again. A text from my father. Your mother's not well. She's talking about hurting herself. This is on you. I showed Jameson the message. See? They're still trying to manipulate me. What are you going to do? I typed back. If Mum's threatening self-harm, call 911. I'm not playing these games anymore. 10 minutes later, Julia called. You won't believe this. Your mum's fine. She's at Hazel's place right now, helping her pack. Apparently, they're planning to move in together while this blows over. Of course they are. I wasn't even surprised anymore. How's everyone else doing? Uncle Robert's meeting with the bank tomorrow about his mortgage. Aunt Sarah's lawyer is gathering statements from everyone. And I just found out Hazel scammed my friend Maria last year, told her she needed money for her dog's emergency surgery. There was no dog, was there? Nope. After Julia hung up, I curled into Jameson's side, suddenly exhausted. Tell me I did the right thing. You did the right thing. He wrapped an arm around me. They needed to face consequences. Finally. My phone kept buzzing. I turned it off. What happens now? I asked the quiet room. Now? Jameson shifted to face me. Now you rebuild, without their toxicity weighing you down. A knock at the door made us both jump. I looked through the peephole and saw my father standing there looking older than I'd ever seen him. I opened the door but didn't invite him in. Your mother's leaving me, he said simply. Says I should have protected Hazel better. Should have stopped you somehow. That's not why you're here. He sagged against the doorframe. No. I'm here to say, I'm sorry. I know it's not enough. I know it doesn't fix anything. But I should have been a better father. To both of you. You're right. It doesn't fix anything. I know. He pulled out an envelope. It's not much, but it's everything I have in my personal savings. For another try at IVF, maybe. I looked at the envelope but didn't take it. Keep it. You'll need it for lawyer fees once the fraud charges hit. He nodded slowly, putting the envelope away. I deserve that. Yes, you do. I started to close the door, then paused. Dad? Get yourself a good lawyer, a separate one from Mom and Hazel. You're going to need it. After he left, Jameson pulled me close again. You're incredible, you know that. I'm tired, I corrected him. I'm just tired. My phone buzzed one final time before dying completely. A text from Hazel. I hope you're happy now that you've ruined everyone's lives. I showed it to Jameson and finally laughed. She still doesn't get it, does she? She ruined her own life. I just made sure everyone knew about it. Outside, the November night was settling in, cold and clear. Somewhere across town, my mother was probably still trying to salvage Hazel's reputation. Uncle Robert was probably still calculating his losses. Aunt Sarah was probably still crying. But here, in my apartment, with Jameson's arm around me, and the truth finally out in the open, I felt something I hadn't expected. Peace. Cold, hard-won peace. The fertility clinic's waiting room felt different this time. Maybe because Jameson was beside me, or maybe because I wasn't carrying the weight of my family's lies anymore. Ingrid, the nurse called. Dr. Peters will see you now. In her office, Dr. Peters reviewed my file. Your previous clinic sent over your records. The delay has impacted your chances, but... She paused, studying my face. You already know that. I do. I just need to know if there's any chance at all. She leaned forward. A small one. The costs will be higher, the odds lower, but if you're willing to try, I'm willing to help. My phone buzzed. Julia. Court date is set. They're charging Hazel with multiple counts of fraud. Your mum's still defending her. I switched off my phone. I want to try. Walking out of the clinic, Jameson squeezed my hand. You're sure about this? About starting over? Yes. I stopped walking. About you being here for it, only if you're sure. He kissed me softly. I'm sure. My phone rang again when we got home. Skylar, Hazel's former friend. Your sister's telling everyone you forged everything, she said without preamble. But I've been talking to other victims. We found 6 more people she scammed. The police want statements from everyone. How much? Over 200,000 total. Your mum's still claiming you hacked their accounts, but the bank confirmed everything. They're both probably going to be charged. I hung up and found an email from my father's new lawyer requesting a meeting. Delete. Another text from my mother. Your sister's checking into rehab. For the anxiety you caused, I hope you're happy with yourself." Jameson read it over my shoulder and snorted. "Still can't admit it was for gambling." "They never will." I deleted that message too. They'll never admit any of it. In their story, I'll always be the villain who destroyed the family. "You didn't destroy anything," he said firmly. "You just showed everyone what was already broken." My phone lit up again, Uncle Robert this time. "The bank's investigating your mother now too. Found a pattern of suspicious transfers going back years. Did you know about this?" I didn't, but I wasn't surprised. That evening, Julia came over with wine and takeout. "Aunt Sarah's lawyer thinks Mom could face serious charges. They found evidence she helped Hazel forge documents for years. Not just for the gambling, for everything. School loans, medical records, all of it." I poured more wine. "Let me guess, she's still claiming I fabricated everything? Actually, she's changed her story. Now she's saying she only did it to protect Hazel from predatory lenders. She's trying to spin it as a mother's desperate attempt to save her child. And Dad? Filing for divorce. Finally grew a spine." Julia paused. "He asked about you. Wanted to know if you consider family counselling." I laughed, but there was no humour in it. A little late for that. Later that night, after everyone left, I sat on my balcony with Jameson, watching the city lights. My phone buzzed one last time. A group text from my mother to the entire family. "Since some people are determined to tear this family apart with lies and accusations, I want everyone to know the truth. Everything I did, everything we did, was to protect this family. If Ingrid can't understand a mother's love, that's her choice. But I won't apologise for protecting my children." I showed it to Jameson, then deleted it without responding. Below, the city hummed with life, with possibilities, with futures untethered from toxic pasts. "You know what's funny?" I said, leaning into him. "They really think they lost everything because I exposed the truth. But I lost everything first, my savings, my chance at motherhood, my trust. The difference is I'm building something new. They're just trying to rebuild their lies." He kissed my temple. "So what now?" I thought about Dr. Peters' words, about small chances and new beginnings, about truth and consequences and the cost of both. Now? I smiled, really smiled, for the first time in months. Now I live my life, without their lies weighing me down, without their drama, without their version of family. "Sounds perfect," he said. And sitting there, planning a future that was entirely my own, it finally did.
The day my parents stole my future, they did it with smiles on their faces. I remember Mom's perfume, something expensive and floral, as she hugged me and said those words I'll never forget. "Be realistic, honey. Your sister needs this more than you do." I'm Skylar, and this is the story of how I turned my family's betrayal into the sweetest revenge served ice cold. It was my senior year of high school when they broke the news. I'd just gotten my acceptance letter from Columbia, my dream school. Full of excitement, I burst into our kitchen, waving the envelope like a victory flag. "Mom, Dad, I got in?" Mom was helping Sadie set up ring lights for her latest Instagram shoot. They barely looked up. "That's nice, dear," Mom said, adjusting Sadie's hair. "Sweetie, tilt your chin down just a bit. Perfect. I can start applying for housing now," I continued, pulling up a chair. "The college fund should cover most of—" "About that," Dad interrupted, suddenly very interested in his coffee mug. "We need to discuss something." Mom finally turned away from Sadie. "Your sister's influencer career is really taking off. She needs proper equipment, travel budget for content creation, styling." "What are you saying?" But I already knew. The sick feeling in my stomach told me everything. "We've reallocated your college fund," Dad said quietly. "Sadie has a real shot at making it big. This could set her up for life." I stared at Sadie, who was still posing with her green smoothie. "Did you know about this?" She shrugged, not even looking at me. "Sorry, sis, but this is my chance. You're the smart one. You'll figure something out. Aren't there, loans and stuff?" That night, I sat in my room calculating numbers until my vision blurred. $137,000. That's what they'd saved for my education. That's what they gave to my sister for ring lights and Instagram filters. The next morning, I walked into a local bank branch. The loan officer looked sympathetic as I filled out form after form, signing away my financial freedom. I was 17. I didn't really understand what I was doing. I just knew I had no choice. "You'll need a cosigner," she said gently. I called my Aunt Carol, who'd always seen through my parents' favoritism. She arrived within an hour, fury in her eyes but composure in her voice. As she signed, she squeezed my hand under the desk. That evening, Sadie was live streaming her packing for Paris Fashion Week. I could hear her squealing from my room. "Oh my God, you guys, I can't believe this is happening. Don't forget to like and subscribe." I opened my laptop and started researching. If I was going to survive this, I needed to understand everything about finance, contracts, and business law. That's when I stumbled across something interesting in a legal forum, a post about hidden clauses in seemingly simple contracts. My phone buzzed, a text from Sadie. "Hey sis, can I borrow your DSLR camera? Mine's not cutting it for the Paris lighting." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I opened a new document and started typing equipment loan agreement. "Sure," I texted back. "Just need you to sign some paperwork, for insurance purposes." Whatever. As long as I can have it tomorrow." I smiled for the first time in days. Of course. What are sisters for? Later that week, I watched Sadie board her flight to Paris, my camera around her neck, her signature on a document she hadn't bothered to read. Mom and Dad were there too, crying proud tears, taking photos for her social media. None of them noticed me in the airport coffee shop watching. None of them saw me slip the signed contract into a folder marked Plan A. I didn't need revenge right then. I needed patience. I needed to learn everything about the system that had failed me so I could turn it against them. While Sadie collected followers, I would collect receipts. While she built her house of cards, I would build an empire of evidence. They wanted me to be realistic. Fine. I would show them exactly how realistic I could be. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Sadie. "The camera's perfect. You're the best sister ever." Sure, blessed. I saved the screenshot. One day she'd learn that everything has a price, and I would be there to collect with interest. 2 years into my college grind, I was working the closing shift at the campus coffee shop when Sadie's FaceTime call lit up my phone. I almost declined it. I'd learned to dread these calls, but something made me answer. "Oh my God, Sky, you won't believe what happened." Sadie's face filled my screen, perfectly contoured despite the late hour. "I got offered a major collab deal, but I need your help." I wiped down the counter with my free hand. "I'm working, Sadie." "This is important. The brand wants professional quality video, and my current camera just isn't cutting it anymore. I need something better, like way better." And I was hoping you could help me get one, please. I know you're good with, money and stuff." I set down my cleaning rag. "You mean you want me to buy you a camera?" "I'll pay you back. I swear. This deal could be huge for me. Mom and Dad already maxed out their cards on my last PR campaign." Of course they had. I glanced at my bank account on my laptop, the careful savings from countless double shifts, the money I'd been setting aside for next semester's textbooks. "I'll think about it," I said. That night I called Lance, my friend from business law class. "I need a favor," I told him. "How good are you at drafting contracts?" Lance laughed. "Is this about your sister again?" "Maybe. How would you feel about helping me create something professionally binding?" 2 days later, I met Sadie at a busy Starbucks. She bounced in her seat as I pulled out the camera catalog. "The Sony A7 III, I said, pointing to the specs. "Full-frame sensor, excellent in low light, perfect for video, $2,800. Sadie's eyes widened. "That's a lot." I confront the money, I said, sliding a folder across the table. But we do this properly this time. Contract and all. She barely glanced at the papers. Whatever you need. You're literally saving my life right now. Read it first, I insisted, pushing the contract closer. It's important. Sky, I trust you. You're my sister. She grabbed my pen and scribbled her signature on every marked line. When can I get the camera? I took the contract back, fighting to keep my face neutral. I'll order it today. What Sadie didn't read was the carefully worded clause on page 3, the one Lance had helped me craft, the one about default penalties, asset transfer, and intellectual property rights, the one that would matter years later. That evening, Lance and I got the contract notarized. Are you sure about this? He asked as we left the notary's office. She made her choice, I said. She chose not to read it. The next 2 years passed in a blur of coffee grounds, textbook highlights, and Excel spreadsheets. While Sadie's follower count grew, my GPA stayed perfect. While she posted about yacht parties, I landed internships. While she influenced, I learned. Graduation day came. Mom and Dad couldn't make it. They were at one of Sadie's brand events. Aunt Carol sat in their place, cheering as I walked across the stage. Summa cum laude, the dean announced. Schuyler, graduating with degrees in finance and business administration. At the small celebration dinner afterward, Aunt Carol raised her glass. I always knew you'd show them, she said quietly. My phone buzzed. A text from Sadie. Congrats, sis. Sorry we couldn't make it. Check out my latest post. I tagged you. Shek proud sister. Blessed. I opened Instagram. There she was on some beach in Bali, posing with my camera. The caption read, missing my sister's graduation, but knowing she understands that sometimes we have to make sacrifices for our dreams. Love you, Sky. The comments gushed about what a sweet sister she was. How understanding I must be. How lucky she was to have such a supportive family. I screenshotted it all. 2 weeks later, I started my job at Sherman Financial. My boss, Beatrice, took one look at my meticulously organized portfolio and smiled. You're different, she said. You understand the power of planning. I thought about the contract in my safe, the screenshots, the records of every penny they'd taken. Yes, I said, I do. That night, I got another call from Sadie. She was crying this time. Sky, something terrible happened. Someone's saying my sponsored posts were fake. They're calling me a fraud. What do I do? I leaned back in my office chair, watching the city lights below. Don't worry, Sadie, I said softly. Everything happens for a reason. And sometimes that reason is karma, or, in this case, a sister who never forgot how to be realistic. The first crack in Sadie's perfect online life appeared on a Tuesday. I was at my desk reviewing quarterly reports when my phone lit up with notifications. Sadie was having a meltdown on Instagram Live. These accusations are completely false. She was pacing her luxury apartment, mascara running. I would never fake sponsored content. Damien, how could you do this to me? I opened Twitter. Her ex-boyfriend and former manager, Damien, had posted screenshots, emails showing Sadie promoting products she'd never received, claiming partnerships that didn't exist. The receipts were damning. My phone rang. Mom, Schuyler, you have to help your sister. She's falling apart. I kept typing my report. What do you expect me to do about it? Talk to her. You work in business, right? Maybe you can help fix this PR nightmare. Fix it, I laughed. Like you fixed my college fund? Silence on the other end. Then softly, that's not fair, honey. We did what we thought was best at the time. I saved another screenshot of Sadie's meltdown to my growing folder. I'm busy, Mom. I have actual work to do. The next week, Dad showed up at my office unannounced. Security called up and I almost sent him away. Almost. 10 minutes, I said, leading him to a conference room. I have a meeting. He looked smaller somehow, his designer clothes hanging loose. Your sister's lost 3 major sponsors. The bank is asking questions about her loans. Your mother and we helped her secure them with our house. Let me guess, you need money. Just a loan. Until Sadie gets back on her feet. She has other deals in the pipeline. No, she doesn't. I pulled up her social media analytics on my tablet. Her engagement is dropping. Brands are distancing themselves. She's toxic now, Dad. She's your sister. And I was your daughter. I stood up, straightening my blazer. My 10 minutes are up. That evening I had dinner with Beatrice. Over wine, I showed her the notification I'd received from the bank. The Franklin family home was going into foreclosure. Interesting, Beatrice said, studying me over her glass. And what are you planning to do about it? I smiled. I was thinking of making an investment, through a holding company, of course. Of course, she raised an eyebrow. Just remember, revenge is a dish best served with proper documentation. The next month was a spectacular downward spiral. Sadie's followers dropped by thousands daily. Damien kept releasing receipts. Her influence was crumbling and she wasn't handling it well. You're all just jealous haters, she screamed in another live stream. I worked for everything I have. The comments were brutal. Worked for it? With Daddy's credit card, maybe? Fraud queen exposed. What happened to that Belly collab? Oh, right, fake. Mom called again. The bank's given us 30 days. Please, Skylar, we're your family. I was already on the bank's website, logged into my shell company's account. Yes, I said, you are. 2 weeks later, I sat in my home office reviewing the paperwork. The deed to my parents' house was now legally owned by Franklin Heights LLC, a company that through several layers of corporate structure belonged to me. My phone buzzed. A text from Sadie. My landlord's evicting me. Mom and Dad can't help. I know I haven't been the best sister, but please, I have nowhere else to go. I opened my carefully maintained folder, now filled with years of screenshots, contracts, and receipts. Added a final document, the deed to our childhood home. Then I called Lance. Everything's ready, he said. Are you sure you want to do this? I looked at the framed photo on my wall, my college graduation, the empty seats where my parents should have been, Aunt Carol's proud, sad smile. They taught me to be realistic, I said. Time to show them what that really means. My doorbell rang. Through the security camera, I saw them, Mom, Dad, and Sadie, standing there with their luggage. Their designer clothes were wrinkled, their faces strained. Sadie's makeup couldn't hide her puffy eyes. Mom raised her hand to ring again, but I was already walking to the door. Time to show them exactly who their realistic daughter had become. I straightened my spine, checked my reflection in the hallway mirror. Perfect, professional, powerful. Welcome, I said, opening the door. I've been expecting you. The look on their faces, that moment when they realized their forgotten daughter now held all the cards, that was worth every double shift, every student loan payment, every quiet year of planning. Sometimes karma needs a little help, and I was about to show them exactly how helpful I could be. They stood in my living room like awkward statues, taking in the view from my 27th floor apartment, the same apartment they'd called unnecessarily expensive when I'd moved in. Your place is nice, Mom said, fingering the edge of my award plaque from Sherman Financial. Very professional. Thanks. I gestured to the sofa. Please sit. Let's talk about your situation. Sadie collapsed dramatically onto my leather couch. It's all Damien's fault. He's trying to destroy me. By posting the truth? I kept my voice neutral, professional. Just another business meeting. Those emails were private. He had no right to expose fraud. I pulled up the Twitter thread on my TV screen. Let's see. Fake partnerships with luxury brands, doctored engagement numbers, sponsored posts for products you never received. Dad stepped forward. Skylar, please, we didn't come here for accusations. No, you came here because you're broke. I turned to face them fully. Because you invested everything, my college fund, your home equity, your retirement, into Sadie's career. And now it's all gone. Mom's face crumpled. The economy has nothing to do with this. I pulled out my iPad. Let's review. You took out 3 home equity loans to fund Sadie's brand development. You maxed out 6 credit cards on her PR campaigns. And now we need help, Dad finished quietly. We're family. I laughed. Family? Was it family when you told me to be realistic about my dreams? When you gave my future to Sadie because she was more marketable? Sadie sat up. That's not fair. I was going to pay it all back when I made it big. And how's that working out? My phone buzzed. A news alert. I cast it to the TV screen. Social media influencer Sadie exposed. Major brands cut ties amid fraud allegations. Sadie burst into tears. Mom rushed to comfort her. Dad just stood there looking lost. The thing is, I continued, and I've been tracking everything. Every loan, every credit card, every broken promise. Would you like to know what your influencer dream really cost? I pulled up a spreadsheet. The numbers made Mom gasp. That's impossible, she whispered. Actually, it's accounting. I scrolled through the details. And here's the interesting part. The house you're about to lose. It was purchased last week by Franklin Heights, LLC. Dad's head snapped up. What? A holding company, I smiled. My holding company? The silence was delicious. Years of dismissal, of being the responsible one, the boring one, all led to this moment. You bought our house? Mom's voice shook. I bought your debt, all of it, every loan, every credit card. I own it all. Sadie stood up, mascara running. You can't do this. We're your family. Funny how family only matters when you need something. I walked to my window, looking out at the city lights. But you're right. We are family. That's why I'm willing to negotiate. Negotiate? Dad stepped forward. What does that mean? I turned back to them. It means I can help you. But this time we do things my way, with contracts, terms, conditions. You'd make your own family sign contracts? Mom looked horrified. Like the one Sadie signed for that camera? I opened my safe, pulled out the notarized agreement. The one she never bothered to read? Sadie's face went pale. What camera contract? The one that gives me rights to your brand assets in case of default, which according to these fraud allegations you're now in. Mom started to speak, but I held up my hand. Here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow morning you'll meet with my lawyer. We'll discuss terms for restructuring your debt, all of it. You'll have jobs, housing, stability, but everything will be in my name. Every decision will go through me. And if we refuse? Dad's voice was barely a whisper. I shrugged. Then you can explain to your creditors why you enabled influencer fraud. I'm sure they'll understand. Sadie lunged forward. You evil bit! Careful, I cut her off. Your new landlord doesn't tolerate abuse. They stared at me, these people who had shaped my life by dismissing it. Mom's perfectly maintained facade was cracking. Dad's shoulders were slumped in defeat. And Sadie, my precious privileged sister, was finally learning what being realistic really meant. I'll have security show you to your temporary accommodations, I said, pressing a button on my phone. 2-bedroom apartment, 20th floor. We'll meet with the lawyers at 9. As they were let out, Mom turned back. When did you become so cold? I thought about all the nights I'd worked double shifts, all the loans I'd paid off, all the times they'd chosen Sadie. I didn't become cold, I said. I became successful. Isn't that what you wanted? The door closed behind them, and I finally allowed myself to smile. The game wasn't over. It was just beginning. The conference room at Sherman Financial felt like a courtroom that morning. Lance sat beside me, spreading documents across the polished table. My family filed in looking like they hadn't slept. Probably hadn't in their temporary apartment with its IKEA furniture and basic cable. Let's begin, Lance said, passing out folders. We're here to discuss the terms of your debt restructuring. Sadie slumped in her chair, still wearing yesterday's makeup. This is ridiculous. She's my sister, not my bank. Actually, I opened my laptop. I'm both now. Shall we review your assets? Mom reached for her designer handbag, last season's model. We don't need to. Your combined debt is $847,000, I continued. That includes the house, credit cards, personal loans, and business expenses for Sadie Influences, which as of yesterday has lost its last remaining sponsor. It's temporary, Sadie snapped. My followers will understand that your followers are dropping by thousands per hour. I turned my laptop to show them the analytics. Your engagement rate is below 0.1%. You're finished, Sadie. Dad cleared his throat. What are our options? Lance slid the first contract forward. Option 1, bankruptcy. You lose everything, face legal consequences for the fraudulent sponsorships, and deal with creditors directly. Mom's hand trembled as she reached for her water glass. Option 2, I continued, you sign everything over to me, the house, the debt, Sadie's brand, all of it. In return, you get jobs, housing, and a fresh start under my supervision. Jobs? Sadie looked horrified. Like actual jobs? Yes, Sadie, those things where you work and earn money legitimately. I pulled out another document. Speaking of legitimate, remember this? Her face went pale as she recognized the camera contract. That was years ago. It doesn't. Section 7, paragraph 3, Lance read. In the event of default or fraudulent business practices, all intellectual property, brand assets, and social media accounts transfer to the lender. That's Skylar. You can't take my Instagram, Sadie shrieked. That's my life. Your life, I leaned forward. Your life was built on my stolen future. How's that working out for you? Mom started crying softly. Dad just stared at his hands. Here's what's going to happen, I said. Mom and Dad will work as administrative staff at one of my subsidiary companies. Sadie will become the face of a new financial literacy nonprofit. Ironic, I know. You'll live in company housing, drive company cars, and rebuild your credit. Under my terms. And if we refuse? Dad asked. I smiled. Then I release everything. The fraud evidence, the financial records, the family text messages about knowingly misleading sponsors. How do you think that will play on social media, Sadie? The silence was heavy. 20 years of family dynamics shifted in that moment. You're enjoying this, Mom whispered, punishing us. No, Mom, I'm being realistic. Isn't that what you taught me? Lance pushed the contracts forward. You have 10 minutes to decide. Sadie grabbed the papers, scanning frantically. This says I have to post apology videos, admit everything. Transparency is important in business, I said. Another lesson you should have learned? Dad picked up his pen first. His signature was shaky but clear. Mom followed, tears dropping onto the paper. Sadie held out longest, mascara streaking down her cheeks. I hate you, she whispered as she signed. That's fine, I replied. You don't have to like me. You just have to obey me. Lance gathered the signed documents. "Congratulations," he said dryly. "You're now officially employees of Franklin Heights Enterprises." "Your new work schedules start tomorrow." I stood up. "Mom, Dad, report to HR at 8 a.m. Sadie, your media training begins at 9. Don't be late." They shuffled out, broken and beaten. As the door closed, Lance turned to me. "Was it worth it?" he asked softly. I walked to the window, watching my family head toward their company-owned apartment in their now modest clothes. "They took everything from me," I said. "My education, my security, my trust. They taught me that family means nothing when ambition is on the line." I turned back to him. "So I learned. I got ambitious, and now they get to learn what that really means." My phone buzzed, a notification that Sadie's follower count had dropped another 1,000. "Send the press release," I told Lance. "It's time for the world to meet the new honest Sadie, the one who's learned her lesson about financial responsibility." He nodded. "And her wise, successful sister who gave her a second chance?" I smiled. "That's just good PR." The sun was rising over the city, painting everything in gold. My empire was growing, built on the ashes of their influence. And this was just the beginning. 1 month into their new lives, I sat in my office watching Sadie's latest video on the Financial Literacy Foundation's channel. Her makeup was subtle now, her designer clothes replaced with professional attire. "I'm here to share my story," she read from the teleprompter, "about how chasing social media fame nearly destroyed my life and my family." The comments were rolling in. "So brave to admit your mistakes." "This is the realness we needed." "Your sister sounds amazing for helping you." My intercom buzzed. "Miss Franklin, your mother's here with the quarterly reports." "Send her in." Mom entered, clutching a stack of folders. Her Gucci bags had been replaced with sensible office wear from Banana Republic. "The Q3 numbers," she said stiffly. "Thank you." I glanced through them. "Your filing system has improved." "I learned from the best." Her voice dripped with sarcasm. "Your sister's latest video is trending." "I know. Authenticity sells, doesn't it?" "Is that what this is about? Selling our humiliation?" I set down the folders. "No, Mom. This is about consequences. How are Dad's new duties as facilities manager?" She flinched. "He's adjusting." "Good. You can go." As she reached the door, she turned back. "We were wrong, Schuyler. Is that what you want to hear?" "What I want," I said, "is for you to file those reports correctly. Everything else is just business." Later that afternoon, Sadie burst into my office, her carefully constructed professional facade cracking. "I can't do this anymore." She threw her script on my desk. "These confession videos, the fake remorse, it's killing me." "Fake remorse?" I raised an eyebrow. "So you're not actually sorry?" "Of course I'm sorry. But this, making me parade my mistakes for your corporate image, it's cruel." "Cruel?" I pulled up her old Instagram feed. "Like posting about your Paris shopping spree the day I was working double shifts to pay for textbooks, or live streaming from Bali during my graduation." "That was different. I was building my brand, and now you're rebuilding it under my terms." I handed the script back. "Your next video shoots in an hour. Don't be late." She grabbed my arm. "I'll sue you. I'll tell everyone how you manipulated me into signing that contract." I smiled, pressing my intercom. "Lance, could you come in, please?" Lance entered carrying a thick folder. "Problem?" "Sadie's threatening legal action. Show her Exhibit A, please." He opened the folder, spreading out documents. "Your signature, dated 3 years ago. Witness, notarized and legally binding. Plus," he pulled out more papers, "evidence of your fraudulent business practices, which we've kept quiet so far." Sadie's face crumpled. "I hate you," she whispered. "You're worse than Damien." No, I'm better at it. Now go film your video. After she left, Lance lingered. She's breaking. She's adapting, I corrected, like I had to. My phone rang. Dad, what is it? The maintenance crew needs approval for new equipment, he said, his once authoritative voice now hesitant. The forms are filed through proper channels, I finished. Follow the procedure, Dad, like you taught me to be procedural about my dreams. That evening, Beatrice called me into her office. Your family rehabilitation project is getting attention, she said, showing me a business magazine. They're calling you a corporate redemption specialist. Is that a problem? It's brilliant. The foundation's donations have tripled. Your sister's confessional videos are viral. Even your parents' story is inspiring other companies to implement stricter financial controls. I watched the city lights flicker on outside. Everything has value if you package it right. Speaking of value, she slid a folder across her desk. The board is considering you for partner. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Family dinner tonight, please. We need to talk. Excuse me, I told Beatrice. I have a business dinner to attend. At the modest restaurant near their company apartment, my family waited. Gone were the designer labels and entitled attitudes. They looked normal. We've been thinking, Dad started. About gratitude, Mom added quickly, about mistakes and consequences. Sadie stared at her water glass. About family. I stirred my coffee. Is this a negotiation? It's an apology, Dad said. A real one. We were wrong, Mom whispered, about everything. I looked at them, really looked at them. The parents who had dismissed my dreams, the sister who had consumed them, all now working for me, living under my rules, surviving on my terms. Apology noted, I said, standing up. The quarterly review is next week. Don't be late. As I walked out, I heard Sadie start to cry, but I didn't look back. They wanted realistic. This was as real as it gets. The live stream disaster happened during what should have been a routine financial literacy webinar. Sadie was halfway through her scripted talk about responsible influencing when she snapped. You want to know the real truth? Her professional mask cracked on camera. My sister orchestrated all of this. She's been planning it for years, waiting for me to fail so she could swoop in and take everything. I watched from my office as the viewer count skyrocketed. Comments flooded in. OMG, what is happening? Is this part of the script? Spill the tea, sis. Lance burst into my office. Should we cut the feed? No. I leaned back in my chair. Let her talk. On screen, Sadie was crying, her carefully applied makeup running. She made me sign contracts. She bought our house when we were desperate. She's turned our parents into her employees. The comments shifted. Wait, her sister saved them from bankruptcy? So she helped her family and this is the thanks she gets? Your sister sounds like a boss queen, TBH. Mom appeared in the background of Sadie's shot, trying to stop her. Honey, please, no. Sadie shoved her away. I'm done pretending. She's ruined our family with her revenge plot. I picked up my phone and dialed the studio. Put me on screen. The live stream split, showing both our faces. Sadie's tear-stained and angry, mine calm and professional. Hello, everyone, I said smoothly. I'm Skylar, Sadie's sister. And since we're being honest, let's tell the whole story. Don't you dare, Sadie started. When I was 17, our parents took my college fund, every penny they'd saved for my education, and gave it to Sadie for her influencer career. I worked double shifts, took out loans, and put myself through school while she posted about luxury vacations. The comments exploded. What the actual? Parents did her dirty. No wonder she took control. When Sadie's career imploded due to fraudulent sponsorships, I continued, I offered our family a choice. face bankruptcy and legal consequences, or accept my help with conditions. They chose help. Sadie was screaming now. You're manipulating everyone just like you manipulated us. Really? I pulled up the old contract. This is the agreement you signed for that camera loan, the one you didn't bother to read. Would anyone like to see it? Don't. I shared my screen showing the document. Note the date, 3 years ago. While you were living your influencer dream, I was planning my future. The difference is my plans worked. The viewer count hit 1 million. The comments were overwhelming. This is better than Netflix. Team Skylar all the way. Financial literacy queen. Mom stepped into frame again, but this time she faced the camera. She's right, she said quietly. We failed Skylar, and when we failed ourselves, she saved us. Dad appeared too, standing behind Mom. We deserved this, all of it. Sadie stared at them in disbelief. You're taking her side. There are no sides, I said, just consequences. And speaking of consequences, I held up another document. This little outburst violates Section 4 of your employment contract. We'll discuss that tomorrow. The comments were loving it. Boss move. She really said check the contract. Most professional clapback ever. Lance touched my shoulder. The foundation's donations are exploding. People love this authentic family drama angle. I ended my stream with a smile. Thank you all for witnessing our journey toward financial and personal responsibility. Sometimes the hardest lessons come from those closest to us. The next morning, Beatrice called me to the boardroom. The partners were waiting. That was quite a show, she said, sliding a partnership offer across the table. You turned a potential PR disaster into a viral marketing triumph. Everything's an opportunity, I replied, if you plan for it. Later, Mom came to my office. She looked tired, older. Was any of it real? She asked. The forgiveness, the second chance. I thought about the years of planning, the careful documentation, the quiet rage that had driven me. But I also thought about the alternative, letting them crash and burn completely. It was real, I said finally, just not in the way you wanted it to be. She nodded slowly. Sadie's in her apartment, crying about how she'll never trust anyone again. Good. I turned back to my work. That's the most valuable lesson I could teach her. As Mom left, my phone buzzed with a text from Lance. You okay? I looked out at the city, at the empire I'd built from the ashes of their betrayal, at the family I'd rebuilt in my own image. Never better, I texted back. Everything's going exactly as planned. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies, it's making them work for you. The morning after I made partner, I found Aunt Carol waiting in my office. She held up a tablet showing Sadie's viral meltdown. Is this what victory looks like? She asked, settling into the chair across from me. I adjusted my nameplate, now reading senior partner, before answering. It looks like consequences. Does it? She set the tablet down. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've become exactly what you hated. I became successful. You became cold. She leaned forward. The day I co-signed your student loans, you promised me something. Do you remember? I did. I promised I wouldn't let their betrayal change who I was. My phone buzzed. Sadie calling. I declined it. They're still your family, Aunt Carol said softly. Family doesn't steal futures. No, she agreed, but maybe they build new ones. After she left, I opened my laptop and started typing. The words flowed easily. Dear Reddit, I'm the sister who turned family betrayal into corporate revenge. You've probably seen the viral video. Here's what you don't know. I detailed everything, the stolen college fund, the careful planning, the contracts, the takeover. The post went viral within hours. Comments poured in. You're my hero. Ultimate revenge story. Show them who's boss. But one comment stuck out. Sounds lonely at the top. My office door opened. Lance walked in holding printouts of the Reddit post. Going public with everything? Truth sells, I quoted myself. Speaking of truth, he set down the papers. I've been sitting on one for years. I raised an eyebrow. I helped you draft that first contract because I was in love with you, he said simply. Still am. But the woman I loved wanted justice, not endless revenge. Before I could respond, my intercom buzzed. Miss Franklin, your sister's here. Sadie walked in, looking different, smaller, real. I read your Reddit post, she said, sitting down uninvited. You forgot something important. What's that? The part where I was a terrible sister, where I took everything for granted, where I never once said thank you when you helped me with homework or defended me from bullies or, she took a shaky breath, or saved our family from complete destruction. I kept my face neutral. Is this another performance? No. She pulled out her phone, opened Instagram. This is. She started a live stream. Hey everyone, no scripts today, no PR team, just truth. I moved to stop her, but Lance caught my arm. My sister isn't the villain of this story, Sadie continued. I am, and Mom and Dad. We took everything from her, and when she could have destroyed us, she chose to save us instead. Yes, with contracts, yes, with conditions, but she gave us a chance we didn't deserve. The comments flooded in, but different this time. This is real growth. Character development. Both sisters winning. So here's my resignation. Sadie looked directly at me. Not from the foundation. That work is actually important. But from pretending I'm the victim. I'm not. I'm the cautionary tale. And my sister, she's the success story we should all learn from. She ended the stream. That's my truth. Do with it what you want. As she stood to leave, I found myself saying, the foundation needs a genuine voice. She paused. What? No more scripts, no more forced confessions, just real experiences, real lessons. Like a real job? A ghost of her old smile appeared. I could try that? After she left, Lance touched my shoulder. That's the Skylar I remember. My phone buzzed again. Mom and Dad in the lobby. Send them up, I told reception. They entered together, holding hands like they used to before influencer dreams destroyed everything. We saw Sadie's stream, Mom said. And your Reddit post, Dad added. I waited. We don't deserve forgiveness, Mom continued, but maybe we could deserve a real relationship, not as employees, as family. With boundaries, Dad said quickly. Clear ones, written ones if you need. I looked at my empire of revenge, at Lance, who'd seen the best in me even at my worst, at my family, broken but maybe not beyond repair. Dinner, I said finally. Once a week, no business talk, no contracts. Just family, Mom whispered. Just truth, I corrected. They nodded, understanding the difference. After they left, I edited my Reddit post one last time. Update. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying people. Sometimes it's about rebuilding them and yourself into something stronger, something real. P.S. Yes, I'm still keeping the contracts. I'm forgiven, not foolish. Lance read over my shoulder. Happy ending? I closed my laptop. No, real ending? Those are better. Because sometimes the biggest power move isn't crushing your enemies. It's choosing when to stop.
Books have always been my refuge, my escape hatch from reality. But that letter, that single piece of paper tucked between the pages of a returned copy of Rebecca, changed everything. I'm Bailey, and until that Tuesday afternoon at the library, I thought I understood how stories worked. The build-up,
the tension, the resolution. But real life doesn't follow such neat patterns. You might want to take a look at this, Sophie said, sliding the envelope across the checkout desk. Found it while reshelving in the mystery section. My name was written on the front in careful, measured strokes. No last name, just Bailey. The paper inside smelled faintly of lavender, Martha's signature scent. Your mother-in-law has been planning something. Watch your back. She's not who you think she is. I read it 3 times, my fingers trembling slightly. The words were typed, pristine, anonymous. Sophie leaned over my shoulder, her breath warm against my ear. Holy shit, she whispered. Martha's finally showing her true colors. This could be anyone, I said, but my stomach twisted. Some bored teenager playing games. Right. Because teenagers regularly warn librarians about their mothers-in-law. Sophie grabbed the letter, holding it up to the light. This is expensive paper. The kind Martha would use. I snatched it back, folding it carefully. Nathan needs to see this. Nathan needs to grow a spine, Sophie muttered. 5 years of watching his mother treat you like dirt, and he still can't stand up to her. My phone buzzed, speak of the devil. A text from Martha, dinner tonight. 7 p.m. sharp. Important family matters to discuss. Sophie read the message over my shoulder and snorted. Important family matters. Translation, another attempt to guilt Nathan into giving her money. I should cancel. The words came out weak, unconvincing. No, Sophie said firmly. Go. Watch her. Maybe whoever sent this letter is right, maybe you'll finally see what she's really planning. The rest of my shift crawled by. Every time the door chimed, I jumped, half expecting Martha to materialize between the stacks. By closing time, I'd convinced myself I was being paranoid. Then I found the second note, this one tucked into my coat pocket. She's going to try to destroy you. Don't let her. Nathan was already home when I arrived, loosening his tie in front of the mirror. Ready for dinner with Mom? He asked, smiling that hopeful smile that always made my heart ache. He wanted so badly for everyone to get along. I pulled out both notes. We need to talk about these. He read them quickly, his forehead creasing. This is ridiculous. Mom can be difficult, but she wouldn't. Wouldn't what? Try to come between us. She's been doing that since day one. Bailey, come on. These are probably just. If you say pranks, I swear to God. I grabbed my purse, anger rising hot in my chest. Your mother hates me. She always has. And now someone's trying to warn me that she's planning something worse than her usual passive-aggressive bullshit. Nathan reached for me, but I stepped back. We're going to be late, I said. And Martha hates tardiness almost as much as she hates me. The drive to his parents' house was silent. As we pulled into the driveway, I caught a glimpse of Martha watching from the window, her silhouette sharp against the warm light inside. For a moment, she looked like something out of a Gothic novel, the mysterious figure behind the glass, plotting in secret. I touched the letters in my pocket. Whatever game Martha was playing, whatever she had planned, I wasn't going to be her victim. Not anymore. Ready? Nathan asked, killing the engine. I smiled, thinking of all the revenge stories I'd shelved over the years. Absolutely. Martha's dining room suffocated me with its perfection. Crystal glasses caught the light just so, silverware gleamed in precise alignment, and the lavender-scented candles made my head swim. Everything arranged to remind us of our place in her carefully curated world. Bailey, dear, Martha's voice dripped honey-sweet poison. I noticed the library's funding was cut again. Such a shame. Perhaps it's time to consider a more stable career. I stabbed at my salmon. The library's doing fine, Martha. Of course it is. She turned to Nathan. Darling, did you get a chance to look over those investment papers I sent? Nathan shifted in his chair. Mom, we talked about this. Bailey and I are saving for our own place. A house can wait, Martha waved her hand dismissively. Family comes first. Your father and I need to secure our retirement, and your expertise would be invaluable. Henry coughed softly into his napkin, eyes fixed on his plate. The coward's way out, I'd seen it 1,000 times. Actually, I set down my fork, we've already started house hunting. There's a lovely Victorian near the library. Oh, those old houses are money pits, Martha interrupted. Nathan, remember Cousin Rachel? Bought one of those death traps and nearly bankrupted herself with repairs. Speaking of Rachel, she's single again. Such a shame, she always had such a crush on you. The words hung in the air like smoke. I felt Nathan tense beside me. Mother. His voice carried a warning edge I'd never heard before. Martha's smile didn't waver. I'm just catching up, darling. Bailey doesn't mind, do you, dear? We're all family here. I reached for my water glass, buying time. The second note burned in my pocket, she's going to try to destroy you. Was this it? Death by 1,000 cuts at her perfectly set table. Nathan, Martha continued, about those investments. We need an answer by Friday. The opportunity won't last forever. How much? I asked suddenly. Martha blinked. I beg your pardon. How much are you asking for this time? Bailey, Nathan whispered. No, I want to know. How much of our savings does she want? The house down payment. All of it. Henry stood abruptly. I'll get coffee. Sit down, Henry, Martha snapped. To me, she said, I don't appreciate your tone. This is a private family matter. I am family. Or have you forgotten that small detail from the wedding you tried to cancel? Bailey, please, Nathan touched my arm. 200,000, Martha said quietly. A small investment, really, considering what's at stake. The room spun. 200,000. Our entire savings, gone in one manipulative swoop. Absolutely not, I said. It's not your decision to make. Martha's mask slipped, just for a moment. I caught a glimpse of something desperate in her eyes before the perfect smile returned. Nathan understands the importance of family loyalty. And I don't. Is that what you've been telling everyone? Poor Nathan, trapped with that gold digger who doesn't understand family values. Mother, that's enough, Nathan stood. We're leaving. Martha rose too, her composure cracking. If you walk out that door without giving me an answer. You'll what? I challenged. Spread more rumors. Try to sabotage my job again. Or maybe send more anonymous notes. The room went silent. Martha's face drained of color, but something in her expression, a flicker of genuine confusion, made my stomach drop. She hadn't sent those notes. What notes? Henry asked, speaking for the first time all evening. Nathan grabbed our coats. We're done here. Mom, don't call about the money again. I mean it. In the car, Nathan's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. I'm sorry, he said. I should have shut this down years ago. I stared out the window, mind racing. If Martha hadn't sent those warnings, who had? And why? My phone buzzed. Unknown number, now you see what she's capable of. But tonight was just the beginning. Be ready. I deleted the message, heart pounding. Whoever was watching us, they were right about one thing, this was just the beginning. The email from Nathan's cousin Rachel sat in my inbox like a ticking bomb. Sophie leaned over my desk at the library, reading it for the third time. That manipulative witch, she hissed. She's been telling everyone you're infertile. That you've been lying to Nathan about wanting kids. My hands shook as I scrolled through Rachel's message. Martha told the entire family at their last reunion. Said Nathan was trapped with me, missing his chance at fatherhood. But you and Nathan decided together to wait. Doesn't matter. Martha's crafting her narrative. I clicked through the attached photos from the reunion, smiling faces, Martha at the center. Probably poisoning minds between coffee and dessert. Rachel says she's been praying for Nathan to see the truth before it's too late. The library door chimed. I slammed my laptop shut as Martha herself glided in, perfectly coiffed in her designer suit. Sophie squeezed my shoulder and retreated to the stacks, but stayed within earshot. Bailey, dear. I hoped I'd find you here. We're closed for lunch, I said. Oh, this won't take long. She placed a thick envelope on my desk. I thought you should see these yourself, rather than hear it from others. Inside were medical records, my medical records. Private files from my gynecologist visits, including notes about the birth control I'd been on since marriage. How did you get these? My voice sounded distant, strange. A concerned friend at the hospital. She agreed Nathan deserves to know the truth about your choices. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. I thought of all those mystery novels on our shelves, how the villains always revealed themselves through overconfidence. You broke federal law to get these records, I said quietly. That's a HIPAA violation. Prison time. Fines. Martha's smile flickered. I'm trying to protect my son. By committing felonies. Spreading lies. They're not lies if they're documented. She tapped the envelope. Nathan wants children. You're preventing that. The family deserves to know. Get out. I stood, blood rushing in my ears. Get out before I call the police. You wouldn't dare. Think what it would do to Nathan, seeing his mother arrested. Better than watching you destroy his marriage with stolen medical records and lies. Sophie emerged from the stacks, phone raised. I got all that on video, Martha. Every word. Martha's face went slack. For a moment, I saw real fear in her eyes. Then she straightened, smoothing her jacket. You'll regret this, she said softly. Both of you. After she left, I collapsed in my chair, hands trembling. Sophie played back the video, clear footage of Martha admitting to obtaining private medical records through illegal means. We've got her, Sophie said. This is actual evidence of actual crimes. My phone buzzed. Another anonymous message, now you have what you need. Use it wisely. Who keeps sending these? Sophie asked. I stared at the message, a theory forming. Someone who knows Martha well. Someone who's watched her do this before. Henry. Maybe. Or, my phone rang. Nathan. Bailey, his voice was tight. Mom just called. Said you threatened her at the library. What's going on? I looked at the medical records, the video, the anonymous messages. All the pieces of a puzzle I was finally starting to understand. Come home early, I said. There's something you need to see. After hanging up, I gathered everything into a folder, the records, Rachel's email, screenshots of the anonymous messages. 5 years of Martha's manipulation condensed into damning evidence. What are you going to do? Sophie asked. I thought of Martha's smug certainty, her decades of controlling others through secrets and lies. The way she'd underestimated me, assuming I'd stay quiet, stay weak. I'm going to give her exactly what she wants, I said. A family meeting. With everyone present. Let's see how well her lies hold up when everything comes to light. Sophie grinned. Need backup? Always. I touched the folder, thinking of Martha's words, "You'll regret this." But she's the one who's going to regret starting this war. Nathan stared at the medical records spread across our kitchen table, his face unreadable. Outside, rain pelted the windows, but inside, the silence was deafening. She did this. His voice cracked. My mother actually stole your private records. I watched him pick up Sophie's phone, replay the video for the 4th time. Martha's voice, clear and damning, a concerned friend at the hospital. She's been planning this for months, I said. The rumors about infertility, the pressure about children, the financial demands, it's all connected. Nathan's phone buzzed. Another message from Martha. He ignored it, but I caught the flash of guilt in his eyes. What aren't you telling me? He ran a hand through his hair. She called earlier. Said if I don't transfer the money by Friday, she'll send those medical records to everyone at your library board meeting. Make it look like you've been lying about medical leave. My stomach lurched. The annual board meeting where I was presenting my proposal for expanded community programs. The one that could secure my promotion to head librarian. She's blackmailing you with my private information to get our savings. I told her no, Nathan said quickly. I swear, Bailey. But what? Maybe we should consider giving her something. Just to keep the peace until. I stood so fast my chair toppled backward. Until what? Until she demands more. Until she finds new ways to control us. She's still my mother. And I'm your wife. The words exploded out of me. Your wife who's watching your mother try to destroy everything I've built. And you're still making excuses for her. Nathan reached for me, but I stepped back. His phone buzzed again. This time, he looked. She's at the house, he said quietly. Dad's with her. They want to talk. No. Bailey. No more talks. No more negotiations. No more pretending she'll change. I grabbed my coat. You need to choose, Nathan. Right now. Either you stand with me against her manipulation, or what? I met his eyes. Or I'll fight this battle alone. And I promise you won't like how it ends. The doorbell rang. We both jumped. I didn't tell her our address, Nathan said. Through the front window, I saw Martha and Henry on our porch. Martha clutched a manila envelope. Henry looked ill. Another buzz from Nathan's phone. Not Martha this time, an unknown number, don't let them in. Martha found the letters. All of them. My blood ran cold. The anonymous warnings. Martha had discovered them. Bailey. Nathan watched me, confused. What letters? The doorbell rang again, more insistent. Nathan, sweetheart. Martha's voice carried through the door. We know you're home. We need to discuss these interesting messages I found. I pulled out my phone, texted Sophie, 911. Need backup. Bring the video. What are you doing? Nathan asked. Ending this. Tonight. I moved toward the door. But first, you need to decide, are you with me or against me? Martha knocked again. Bailey. I think it's time we had an honest conversation about your intentions with my son. Nathan looked between me and the door, years of conditioning warring with the evidence of his mother's betrayal. I saw the moment something shifted in his eyes. He took my hand. What's the plan? We let them in, I said. Show them everything, the records, the video, the financial demands. Call their bluff. And if they don't bluff? I squeezed his hand. Then we show them exactly what happens when you corner a librarian who reads mystery novels for fun. Nathan's laugh was shaky but real. He straightened his shoulders, moved toward the door. Together, he asked. I thought of all the times I'd stayed quiet, played nice, let Martha's poison spread. Not anymore. The anonymous messenger was right, now I had everything I needed. Together, I agreed, and reached for the door handle. The library board meeting room fell silent as my presentation crashed on the screen, replaced by personal medical records and private emails. 20 faces turned toward me, their expressions ranging from shock to pity to disgust. As you can see, Martha's voice carried from the back of the room. Mrs. Davidson has been less than honest about her qualifications and personal situation. I gripped the podium, knuckles white. Martha stood there in her perfect suit, Henry hovering uncertainly beside her. The anonymous warning from this morning flashed through my mind. Watch the presentation files carefully. Too late. These records are stolen, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. And private. Are they accurate? Board Chairman Stevens asked. Before I could answer, Martha stepped forward. The library board deserves to know if their potential head librarian has been falsifying medical leave requests and lying about her ability to commit long-term to this position. That's enough. Sophie stood up from her seat, phone in hand. I have evidence that Mrs. Wilson obtained these records illegally. I'm afraid that's not relevant right now, Martha interrupted smoothly. The question is about Mrs. Davidson's integrity. My carefully prepared presentation about community outreach programs lay forgotten. 5 years of work, destroyed in 5 minutes by stolen medical records and twisted truths. Bailey. Nathan's voice from the doorway made everyone turn. He wasn't supposed to be here, he had a meeting across town. But there he stood, holding a manila envelope. Martha's composure slipped. Nathan, darling, this isn't. I found these in your study, he said, pulling out documents. Financial records. Emails. Evidence of where that investment money was really going. The room shifted. Martha took a step back. Nathan, Henry warned, finally speaking. Don't. Why not, Dad? Afraid everyone will learn that Mom's been embezzling from your company. That she needs our savings to cover it up before the audit next month. The silence turned sharp. Martha's face went ash white. You went through my private files, she whispered. Like you went through Bailey's medical records. Nathan moved to stand beside me. It's over, Mom. The audit committee already has copies of everything. Martha's mask cracked. You don't understand. I had to, I was protecting our family name. By destroying mine. I found my voice again. By sabotaging my career. You were taking him away from us. The words burst from her like bullets. Everything I did for Nathan. For our family. No. Nathan's hand found mine. You did it for yourself. And now you've lost everything. Martha turned to Henry, reaching for him, but he stepped back. The movement was small, yet devastating in its finality. Henry. I can't cover for you anymore, he said quietly. Not this time. Chairman Stevens cleared his throat. I believe we should reschedule this presentation. And perhaps involve the hospital's legal team regarding these privacy violations. Martha's face hardened. If you pursue this, You'll what? I cut in. Share more stolen records. Spread more lies. I looked at the board members, at Sophie with her phone still recording, at Nathan standing firm beside me. I'm done being afraid of you. The anonymous messenger had been right all along. Martha was capable of anything, but so was I. Nathan, Martha tried one last time. Please. But Nathan was already gathering my presentation materials, his hand steady on my back. Goodbye, Mom. We left Martha standing there, Henry finally walking away from her, the board members murmuring among themselves. In the hallway, my phone buzzed one final time. Now you're free. Both of you. I looked at the message, then at Nathan. Did you send these? The anonymous warnings. He shook his head. No. But I think I know who did. He nodded toward the parking lot, where Henry sat in his car, phone in hand, looking years younger despite everything. Ready to go home? Nathan asked. I thought of Martha, of revenge and justice, of the fine line between protecting yourself and becoming what you fear. Yes, I said. Let's go home. Martha's house loomed before me in the gathering dusk, windows dark except for a single light in her study. Henry's warning text burned in my mind, she's desperate. Be careful. I clutched the envelope containing copies of everything, the financial records, the medical files, the evidence of her embezzlement. The originals were safe with Nathan's lawyer, but these would serve their purpose. The front door opened before I could knock. Martha stood there, still elegant despite everything, but her eyes were different. Harder. Dangerous. I wondered when you'd come, she said. We need to talk. She stepped aside, gesturing me in. The house smelled of lavender and desperation. Family photos lined the walls, Nathan's whole life, carefully curated. I noticed for the first time that in every picture, Martha stood between Nathan and whoever else was in the frame. Drink? She moved to the bar cart. No. Suit yourself. She poured something amber into a crystal glass. I assume you're here to negotiate. I'm here to end this. She laughed, a brittle sound. And what? My reputation. My marriage. My relationship with my son. You've already done that. You did that yourself. Did I? She turned, something glinting in her hand. My phone. The one I'd left in my car. Interesting messages you've been getting. Henry's quite the secret keeper, isn't he? My stomach dropped. How did you get into your car? Really, Bailey? You should be more careful where you leave spare keys. She scrolled through the messages. My own husband, conspiring against me. Teaching you how to destroy me. Henry was trying to protect everyone. Including you. Protect me. The glass shattered in her grip, but she didn't seem to notice the blood or whiskey dripping from her fingers. I built everything we have. Every connection, every advantage, every opportunity for Nathan. And you and Henry tried to tear it all down. Nathan deserves his own life. He had a perfect life until you poisoned him against me. She moved closer, blood dropping onto the pristine carpet. But I can fix this. I can fix everything. It's over, Martha. The audit committee has the files. The hospital board knows about the stolen records. You've lost. Have I? Her smile turned savage. Check your email, dear. My phone screen lit up in her bloody hand. New message from the library board, effective immediately, my position was terminated. Budget cuts. No references would be provided. Amazing what a few well-placed calls can do, Martha said softly. Even in disgrace, I still have influence. People still owe me favors. Nathan won't let you. Nathan's on a flight to London. Emergency conference. Didn't he tell you? Her eyes glittered. He'll be gone 2 weeks. Plenty of time for you to reconsider things. My chest tightened. Nathan hadn't mentioned any conference. You're lying. She picked up her phone, showed me the flight confirmation. Nathan Davidson departed 30 minutes ago. He left you to face me alone, she whispered. Deep down, he'll always choose family first. Real family. I am his family. Are you? Without a job, without support, with your reputation in ruins. She stepped closer. Leave him. Walk away now, and I'll make sure you land on your feet somewhere far from here. Stay, and I'll destroy everything you touch. Every job application, every rental agreement, every attempt to rebuild. You can't. I can. I will. Because unlike you, I understand what real love is. The kind that demands sacrifice. My phone buzzed again. Nathan, sorry about the sudden trip. Mom said she'd explain. Talk when I get back. The room spun. He hadn't even called. 2 weeks, Martha said, pressing my bloody phone into my hand. Think carefully about your choice. And remember, I made you once, I can unmake you just as easily. She turned away, leaving me standing in her perfect house with its perfect photos and the taste of ashes in my mouth. On the wall, Nathan smiled from every frame, always with Martha between him and the world. My phone buzzed one last time. Henry, I'm sorry. I tried to warn you. Outside, rain began to fall, washing away the last traces of daylight. And with it, my last illusions of victory. The family reunion buzzed with tension as I walked in, Martha's perfect smile faltering when she saw me. 2 weeks of silence had made her careless, confident in her victory. She hadn't expected me to come. She certainly hadn't expected Nathan beside me. Bailey, she recovered quickly, I thought you'd be elsewhere by now. Funny thing about London conferences, Nathan said. They send confirmation emails. To your actual work address. Martha's champagne glass trembled slightly. Around us, relatives pretended not to watch, but I caught Rachel's wide eyes, Henry's careful stillness by the fireplace. Nathan, darling, I can explain. Save it. I pulled out my phone, clicked play. Martha's voice filled the room. I made you once, I can unmake you just as easily. The party went silent. Martha's face drained of color. That's not, I never. I found the storage unit, Henry spoke up. The one with all the files. Every person you've ever threatened, blackmailed, or destroyed. 20 years of carefully documented revenge. Martha's mask cracked. You went through my private things. Like you went through mine. I stepped closer. The medical records were just the start, weren't they? I found the others. The jobs that mysteriously fell through. The apartment applications that got denied. You've been sabotaging me for years. I was protecting my son. You were protecting yourself, Nathan said. Dad showed me everything. The embezzlement, the threats, the lies. Even Rachel's divorce, you orchestrated that too, didn't you? Rachel gasped. Martha spun toward her. Rachel, no, I. Is it true? Rachel's voice shook. Did you tell James the first was cheating? Martha's silence was answer enough. It's over, Mom, Nathan said quietly. The audit committee meets tomorrow. The police have the files. All of them. You wouldn't dare. But fear had replaced certainty in her eyes. I'm your mother. Yes, you are. Nathan's voice hardened. And you're going to face consequences like any other criminal. Martha laughed, high and brittle. Criminal. Everything I did for this family. To protect us. To keep us together. No. I moved between them. You did it for control. Because you'd rather destroy people than risk losing your power over them. You ungrateful, she lunged for me, but Henry caught her arm. Enough, Martha. She stared at him, betrayal raw on her face. You too. After everything we built. Henry's gentle voice carried through the room. You built this house of cards. I just watched it destroy everyone we loved. The police are outside, Nathan said. It's your choice how this ends. Martha looked around the room, at the family members backing away, at Henry's quiet resignation, at Nathan's resolved face. Finally, at me. You think you've won? She whispered. You think this makes you better than me? No, I said. It makes me different from you. I could have destroyed you quietly, leaked the evidence anonymously. Made you suffer like you made others suffer. But I chose justice over revenge. Justice, she spat. You stole my son. You lost him yourself. Every manipulation, every lie, every person you hurt, that was your choice. Blue lights flashed outside. Martha straightened, smoothed her dress with trembling hands. I want my lawyer, she said to the room at large. Then, to Nathan, when you realize what she's done to this family, don't expect forgiveness. As the police led her out, Henry touched my arm. The anonymous warnings, I said. That was you. He nodded. Someone had to stop her. I just wasn't brave enough to do it myself. Nathan took my hand as we watched the police car drive away. The family reunion continued behind us, voices gradually rising, secrets and stories spilling out like water through broken glass. Ready to go home? Nathan asked. I thought of Martha's perfect house, her perfect photos, her perfect lies. Of revenge and justice and the thin line between them. Yes, I said. Let's go home. The courthouse steps felt colder than they should in spring. Martha stood at the top, her designer suit replaced by something simpler, her perfect mask finally cracked beyond repair. The embezzlement charges had stuck. The unauthorized access to medical records too. 5 years, Nathan said beside me, his voice steady. With possibility of parole in 3. Martha's eyes found mine across the distance. No hatred there anymore, just something harder to name. Understanding, maybe. Or recognition. Henry waited by his car, boxes visible in the back seat. He'd sold the house last week. Bailey. Martha's voice carried down the steps. The guards paused, allowing her this final moment. Was it worth it? The question hung between us like smoke. Worth the pain, the betrayal, the destruction of a family's carefully maintained illusions. Ask me again in 5 years, I said. She nodded, as if this answered something else entirely. Then she turned to Nathan. I did love you. In my way. I know, Mom. His hand found mine. That's what made it worse. The guards led her away. I watched until the doors closed, thinking of all those mystery novels on my library shelves. How revenge never quite tastes the way you expect it to. You okay? Sophie appeared beside us, notebook in hand. The story had made her career as an investigative journalist, Martha's web of manipulation spanning decades, touching countless lives. I got a job offer, I said. Different library system. Clean slate. We're not taking it, Nathan added. Sophie raised an eyebrow. No. Running feels too much like letting her win. I watched Henry drive away, toward his new life in Arizona. Besides, someone needs to help rebuild what she broke. Rachel approached, her divorce papers finally signed. The family's gathering at my place. To talk. Really talk, maybe for the first time. She hesitated. Will you come? Nathan looked at me, waiting. 5 years ago, I would have said yes automatically, eager to prove myself worthy of acceptance. Now I understood, Worthiness wasn't the point. Another time, I said. Today's for family. You are family, Rachel insisted. I know. That's why I can say no. She hugged me, whispering, "Thank you for being braver than the rest of us." After she left, Sophie studied my face. So what now? Happy ever after? I thought of Martha's storage unit, those meticulous files documenting decades of destruction. How thin the line between protection and control, between justice and revenge. Now we rebuild, Nathan said. Together. My phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. One last warning from Henry, she kept copies. Hidden somewhere even I couldn't find. Be careful. I deleted it without showing Nathan. Some secrets were better left buried, some battles better left unfought. I'd learned that much at least. Ready to go home? Nathan asked. Home. Not Martha's perfect house with its perfect photos and suffocating lavender. Our home, with its mismatched furniture and overflowing bookshelves. Where we could write our own story, free from manipulation and fear. Actually, I said, let's get coffee first. I want to tell you about this mystery novel I'm thinking of writing. Nathan smiled, understanding. Some stories need to be told, even if only to make sense of the ending. As we walked away, I glanced back one last time at the courthouse. Through a high window, I caught a glimpse of Martha being led down a corridor, her head held high. Still proud, still unbroken. Still teaching me, even now, about the price of victory and the weight of choices. I turned away, letting her ghost fade into memory. The spring air felt cleaner somehow, lighter. Not an ending exactly, those only exist in books. But a new chapter, waiting to be written. So, Nathan said, tell me about this novel. I squeezed his hand and began to speak, telling him about a story where justice and revenge dance together, where victory tastes of ashes and hope. Where healing comes not from forgetting the past, but from choosing to write a different future.
The letter arrived on a Tuesday, typed in crisp Times New Roman, each word a precise little dagger aimed at my heart. I read it 3 times before the meaning fully sank in, my fingers trembling against the expensive cotton paper. Story time approaches. But first, where are you tuning in from today? Let us know in the comments. If you're new and love stories, that subscribe button is waiting. Shall we begin? My name is Ruth, and until 10 minutes ago, I thought I was living a modern fairy tale. Small-town librarian meets successful city banker, falls in love, gets engaged. But fairy tales don't usually include future mothers-in-law plotting to destroy their son's engagement. She's nothing but a social climber, the anonymous letter quoted Margaret Harrison saying. I'll make sure Tom sees sense before he ruins his life with that small-town nobody. I set the letter down on my kitchen counter, right next to the wedding magazine I'd been browsing earlier. The contrast was almost funny, all those perfect white dresses and smiling brides next to words dripping with such calculated venom. My phone buzzed. Tom's face lit up the screen, his smile warm and familiar. I let it ring. What was I supposed to say? Hey, honey, your mother's plotting to destroy our relationship? Ruth. My mother's voice carried through the open window from the backyard. The roses need trimming. Want to help? Not now, Mom. My voice cracked slightly. I heard her footsteps approaching the back door. She appeared in the doorway, pruning shears in hand, dirt smudged on her gardening apron. One look at my face and she set the shears down. What's wrong? I handed her the letter. Her eyes narrowed as she read. Her mouth settling into a thin line I recognized from my childhood, the expression she wore when dealing with particularly difficult parents at school. Well, she said finally, I can't say I'm entirely surprised. What do you mean? Margaret Harrison has been giving you the snake eye since day one. Remember that charity auction? The way she introduced you as Tom's friend even though you'd been engaged for 3 months? The memory stung. I'd written it off as forgetfulness, but now. What am I going to do? The question is, Mom said, settling into a kitchen chair, what do you want to do? The answer came surprisingly quick. I want to fight back. Ruth. No, Mom. I'm tired of pretending I don't notice the snide comments. The way she acts like I'm somehow not good enough for her precious family. I grabbed my phone as it buzzed again, another call from Tom. I'm going to prove her wrong. And how exactly do you plan to do that? I thought about Margaret's perfectly curated dinner parties, her carefully maintained image, her iron grip on her family's social standing. By finding out what she's hiding. Nobody's that perfect. You might not like what you find, Mom warned. And Tom needs to know who his mother really is. I picked up the letter again. She's having dinner with the Blakes tonight. I think it's time I paid Eleanor Blake a visit. Tom's grandmother? The one who never leaves her estate? The very same. I grabbed my car keys. She's the only one who knows all the Harrison family secrets. And I bet she'd love to share them with her future granddaughter-in-law. Mom stood up, concern etched on her face. Just remember, revenge has a way of hurting everyone involved. Including you. I paused at the door, my hand on the knob. I'm not looking for revenge, Mom. I'm looking for justice. But as I walked to my car, the letter burning a hole in my pocket, I wondered if there was really any difference between the two. Tom's name flashed on my phone screen again, and this time, I answered. Hey, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. We need to talk. The Harrison mansion loomed before me like a challenge, all gleaming windows and manicured hedges. Tom squeezed my hand as we walked up the granite steps, but I barely felt it. The anonymous letter felt like it was burning through my purse, each step bringing me closer to its author. Margaret opened the door herself, perfect in pearls and a silk blouse that probably cost more than my monthly salary. Thomas, darling. She air-kissed his cheek, then turned to me. Ruth. That's an interesting dress choice. I smoothed down my carefully selected cocktail dress, remembering the 4 stores I'd visited to find something suitable. Thank you, Margaret. The color reminded me of the roses in your garden. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Well, do come in. Edward's already in the dining room. The house smelled of money and old secrets, leather-bound books, polished silver, and whatever expensive thing was being served for dinner. Edward stood as we entered, his quiet "Hello, Ruth" somehow warmer than his wife's entire greeting. I hear congratulations are in order, Margaret said as we settled around the massive dining table. The library received some sort of grant? Yes, I replied, noting how she made it sound like a consolation prize. We're expanding our children's literacy program. How quaint. Though I suppose that's important in areas like yours. Tom shifted uncomfortably. Mother. More wine? Edward interrupted, reaching for the bottle. I noticed his hand trembled slightly. The first course arrived, something delicate involving seafood that I barely tasted. Margaret dominated the conversation, dropping names of people I'd never meet and places I'd never visit. But I was watching her, really watching her for the first time. The way her eyes darted to Edward whenever certain names came up. The slight tightening of her fingers around her wine glass when Tom mentioned our wedding plans. Actually, Margaret said, setting down her fork, I've been meaning to discuss the wedding. The Blakes' country house would be perfect for the reception. Eleanor's quite fond of you, Thomas, and we've already booked the venue, I cut in. The old botanical gardens near my parents' house. Margaret's smile turned brittle. Oh, but surely you'd prefer somewhere more appropriate? The Blakes' property has hosted 3 governors' weddings. The gardens are perfect, Tom said firmly. Ruth and I both love it there. Love isn't everything, darling. Margaret's voice carried an edge I'd never heard before. Sometimes we must consider what's best for the family's future. I excused myself to use the bathroom, needing a moment away from her perfectly aimed barbs. In the hallway, I heard voices from behind a partially closed door, Margaret's study. No, it has to be handled carefully. Margaret's voice, sharp and clear. The girl's smarter than she looks. Yes, I know what's at stake. The merger depends on someone's coming. I'll call you back. I hurried past just as she emerged, our eyes meeting in a moment of perfect understanding. She knew I'd heard, and I knew she knew. Lost? Her smile was pure ice. Just heading back to dinner. I matched her tone. Wouldn't want to miss any of your helpful suggestions. The rest of dinner passed in a blur of subtle jabs and loaded silences. Tom grew increasingly tense, while Edward seemed to shrink into himself. When we finally left, Margaret's goodbye was almost triumphant. In the car, Tom turned to me. I'm sorry about Mother. She's just protective. Protective? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Tom, she's actively trying to stop our wedding. There's something bigger going on here, something about a merger? What merger? Ruth, you're not making sense. But I was making perfect sense. For the first time, everything was becoming clear. Margaret's opposition wasn't just about my social status, there was something else, something worth destroying her son's happiness over. I pulled out my phone and typed Eleanor Blake into the search bar. If Margaret wanted to play games, fine. But she'd forgotten something important: librarians know how to research. And I was just getting started. Eleanor Blake's estate made the Harrison mansion look modest. I sat across from her in a sunroom larger than my entire apartment, watching as she stirred honey into her tea with a silver spoon that probably cost more than my car. Margaret always was ambitious, Eleanor said, her voice carrying decades of carefully cultivated refinement. But you didn't drive all the way out here to discuss my daughter-in-law's personality, did you? No. I placed the newspaper clipping on the table between us. I came to ask about this. Eleanor's hands trembled slightly as she picked up the yellowed paper. The headline read, Blake Industries merger scandal, former secretary claims fraud. Where did you find this? Library archives. The secretary who made the allegations was Margaret Harrison. Before she married Edward. Eleanor set down her teacup with a sharp clink. That was 35 years ago. The article mentions evidence that could have destroyed Blake Industries. Evidence that mysteriously disappeared right after Margaret married Edward. You've done your homework. Eleanor's smile held a hint of approval. But what does ancient history have to do with your current situation? Yesterday, I overheard Margaret talking about another merger. One that apparently depends on stopping my wedding to Tom. Eleanor's expression shifted, something dark passing behind her eyes. The Whitmore deal. What? Thomas hasn't told you? The Whitmores are trying to acquire Harrison Financial. They have a daughter about Thomas's age. Very suitable match, in Margaret's opinion. My stomach churned. Tom wouldn't. No, he wouldn't. That's why Margaret's getting desperate. Eleanor reached for an ornate bell on the side table. Jenkins, bring me the blue folder from my study. While we waited, Eleanor studied me with unnerving intensity. You remind me of Margaret, you know. Before she learned to value position over principle. The butler returned with a leather folder. Eleanor removed several documents, spreading them across the table. The evidence Margaret claimed to have? It never disappeared. I've kept it all these years, insurance against exactly this sort of situation. My hands shook as I read. Bank statements, letters, forged documents, everything that proved the original Blake-Harrison merger was built on fraud. Why are you showing me this? Because Margaret's about to sacrifice her son's happiness to protect her position. Again. Eleanor's voice hardened. History doesn't just repeat itself, my dear. It's forced to repeat by people who refuse to learn from it. My phone buzzed, a text from Tom. Where are you? Mother's called an emergency family meeting. Go, Eleanor said, gathering the documents. But remember, weapons only work if you're willing to use them. I drove to the Harrison house in a daze, the implications of Eleanor's revelations spinning through my mind. The family was already gathered in the living room when I arrived. Margaret stood by the fireplace, triumph written across her face. Ruth, how nice of you to join us. Her smile was razor sharp. I was just explaining to Thomas about the Whitmore opportunity. How it could secure his future, our family's future. By having him marry someone else? The words came out before I could stop them. Tom stood up. What? The merger depends on it, doesn't it, Margaret? I met her gaze steadily. Just like the Blake merger 35 years ago? The color drained from Margaret's face. Edward looked up sharply. I don't know what you're talking about, Margaret said, but her voice wavered. I think you do. And so does Eleanor. The room went silent. Tom looked between us, confusion giving way to understanding. Mother, what is she talking about? Margaret's composure cracked. Everything I did for this family. No, I said quietly. You did it for yourself. And now you're trying to do it again. I reached for my phone, pulling up the photos I'd taken of Eleanor's documents. Should I share these with everyone? Or should we discuss how this ends differently this time? Margaret's hands gripped the mantelpiece, her knuckles white. The choice hung in the air between us, her past or her son's future. And in her eyes, I saw she knew exactly which one I'd choose. The documents from Eleanor's folder lay scattered across my kitchen table like landmines. Tom stood by the window, his silence heavier than any argument we could have had. Outside, rain pelted against the glass, matching my thundering pulse. You went behind my back. His voice was quiet, controlled. To my grandmother. Your mother went behind both our backs. I touched one of the papers, proof of Margaret's past deceptions. She's trying to marry you off to someone else. That's not the point, Ruth. He turned, and I barely recognized the expression on his face. You're turning into her. The accusation hit like a physical blow. I'm nothing like Margaret. Really? Secret meetings, digging up dirt, using people's past against them? He picked up one of Eleanor's documents. What exactly was your plan here? To protect us. By destroying my family? My carefully constructed justifications crumbled. In the harsh light of Tom's disappointment, I saw what I'd become, someone who'd let revenge mask itself as righteousness. The doorbell rang, making us both jump. Through the front window, I saw Edward Harrison's car in my driveway. Tom opened the door. Edward stood there, soaked from the rain, looking older than I'd ever seen him. May I come in? I gathered the documents quickly, but Edward waved them away. I know what those are. I've always known. Then why didn't you ever say anything? Tom demanded. Because I loved her. Edward sank into a kitchen chair. And because I was a coward. Still am, probably. But I can't watch her do to you what she did to us. What do you mean? The Whitmore merger isn't just about business, Tom. It's about Margaret's revenge against Eleanor. The Whitmores were involved in the original scandal, they helped cover it up. If this merger goes through, it'll protect everyone involved. Everyone except Eleanor. My phone buzzed, a text from Margaret, "We need to talk." Alone. "She's trying to divide us," Tom said, reading over my shoulder. No. I stood up. "She's offering me a choice. Ruth. I need to see this through." I grabbed my car keys. But not the way I planned. Tom caught my arm. "What are you going to do?" I thought about Eleanor's words about weapons, about Margaret's desperate grip on her perfect life. About how easily I'd let myself become what I claimed to hate. "I'm going to give her what she never gave anyone else," I said. "A chance to choose differently." Edward spoke up. "Margaret doesn't believe in second chances." "Maybe not. But I still do." I touched Tom's face. "That's the difference between us." The drive to the Harrison mansion felt like crossing a boundary. Margaret waited in her study, perfectly composed except for the slight tremor in her hands as she poured 2 glasses of wine. "I assume you've come to negotiate," she said, offering me a glass. I didn't take it. "No. I came to tell you I'm not using Eleanor's documents." Surprise flickered across her face. "Why?" "Because I don't want to win that way." I met her gaze steadily. "But I'm not backing down either. Tom deserves to choose his own path. Just like you deserved to choose yours 35 years ago. You know nothing about my choices. I know you were like me once. Before you decided status was worth more than happiness." I moved toward the door. "The difference is, I'm choosing differently. And if I don't back down?" I paused, hand on the doorknob. "Then you'll lose Tom anyway. But this time, it'll be your choice, not mine." Walking away from Margaret's study felt like emerging from a dark room into sunlight. Tom waited in my driveway when I got home, and the way he looked at me told me I'd made the right choice. Sometimes the hardest battles aren't won by fighting, but by refusing to become what we're fighting against. The annual Harrison family gathering felt like a powder keg waiting for a spark. I watched from the edge of the grand ballroom as Margaret worked the crowd, her laugh carrying across the room with practiced ease. The Whitmores were here too, their daughter Claire hovering near Tom with predatory grace. Eleanor caught my eye from her corner seat, raising her glass slightly. The documents she'd given me felt heavy in my clutch, though I'd promised myself I wouldn't use them. Quite the turnout. Edward appeared beside me, his bow tie slightly askew. "Margaret's outdone herself. Is that what we're calling it?" He flinched at my tone. "Ruth, about the merger." "Don't." I watched as Claire touched Tom's arm, laughing at something he'd said. "You had 35 years to speak up. And you have 30 seconds before Margaret makes her announcement." My head snapped toward him. "What announcement?" But Margaret was already clinking her glass, drawing everyone's attention. Tom's eyes found mine across the room, a warning in them I couldn't quite read. "Family, friends," Margaret's voice carried effortlessly. "We're gathered not just for our annual celebration, but for a special announcement. Harrison Financial and Whitmore Industries are joining forces." Polite applause. I felt the trap closing. "And to cement this union," Margaret continued, "we're thrilled to announce the engagement of Thomas Harrison to Claire Whitmore." The room erupted in congratulations. Tom stood frozen, his face pale. Claire beamed, already moving to take his arm. "He hasn't agreed," I said to Edward. "He doesn't have to. The contracts were signed this morning. If he refuses, both companies face bankruptcy." The documents in my clutch suddenly felt like a lifeline instead of a burden. One move and I could burn it all down, Margaret's reputation, the merger, everything. "Don't." Eleanor's voice behind me was soft, but firm. "That's exactly what she wants. To prove you're no different from her." "Then what am I supposed to do? Let her win?" You're asking the wrong question. Eleanor's eyes were sharp. Ask yourself why she's so desperate to stop you. I looked around the room, at Margaret's triumphant smile, at Edward's defeated posture, at Tom's barely contained fury. Then I saw it. The slight tremor in Margaret's hand as she raised her glass. The way her eyes kept darting to the Whitmores. The desperate edge to her perfect performance. She wasn't trying to stop my wedding. She was trying to save herself. I moved through the crowd toward Tom, aware of every eye tracking my progress. Claire stepped closer to him, practically marking her territory. Thomas, Margaret called out, perhaps you'd like to say a few words about your engagement? The room went quiet. Tom looked at me, then at his mother, then at the expectant faces surrounding us. I saw the weight of family legacy crushing him, just as it had crushed Edward all those years ago. I reached into my clutch, fingers brushing Eleanor's documents. One move would expose everything, the fraud, the lies, the decades of manipulation. Justice, revenge, whatever you wanted to call it, was right there. Instead, I pulled out my engagement ring. Actually, I said, my voice carrying in the silence, I have something to say. Margaret's smile froze. Eleanor leaned forward in her chair. Tom watched me with a mixture of fear and hope. I held up the ring, letting it catch the light. This ring belonged to my grandmother. She was a housekeeper for a family like yours. They treated her like she was nothing. But she taught me something important: our worth isn't in who we marry or what we own. It's in the choices we make. I turned to Margaret. You made your choice 35 years ago. Now it's Tom's turn. The silence that followed was absolute. In that moment, watching Margaret's carefully constructed world balance on a knife's edge, I realized something important. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't in destroying your enemy's world. It's in refusing to play their game at all. The silence after my speech lasted exactly 3 seconds before Margaret's laugh cut through it like a knife. How touching. But perhaps we should discuss what's really at stake here. She pulled out her own envelope, and my stomach dropped. I recognized Eleanor's handwriting on the front. Mother, Tom warned, stepping forward. No, Thomas. It's time everyone knew exactly who they're dealing with. Margaret's voice carried across the ballroom. Did Ruth tell you how she obtained evidence about our family? How she conspired with Eleanor to blackmail us? The crowd murmured. Claire Whitmore's triumphant smile made my skin crawl. That's not what happened, I said, but my voice sounded weak even to me. No? Margaret opened the envelope. Then explain these emails between you and Eleanor, plotting to expose the merger's history. Plotting to destroy not just my reputation, but the livelihoods of hundreds of employees who depend on both companies. Tom turned to me, his expression unreadable. Is this true? I never intended. The words stuck in my throat as I watched Margaret produce printout after printout. Of course you didn't intend, Margaret's voice dripped with false sympathy. Just like you didn't intend to use my past against me. To exploit an old woman's bitterness for your own gain. Eleanor stood up shakily. That's enough, Margaret. Is it? Because I have more. About Ruth's midnight visits to your house, about the documents she copied without permission. About her plans to reveal everything at this very gathering. Each word was a nail in my coffin. I watched as the room turned against me, saw the doubt creep into even Edward's sympathetic gaze. Ruth. Tom's voice cracked slightly. Tell me you didn't do this. But I had done it. All of it. The investigation, the secret meetings, the planned exposure, everything except the final reveal. And now Margaret had turned my own weapon against me, making me look exactly like what I'd accused her of being. A manipulative social climber willing to destroy a family for personal gain. I was trying to protect us, I whispered. By becoming exactly what you claimed to hate? Tom's words echoed my own thoughts from days ago. Claire slipped her arm through Tom's. I think we all know what this is really about. A small-town girl who couldn't handle the fact that she didn't belong. I looked around the room at the faces that had turned from curious to condemning, at Eleanor's defeated posture, at Edward's averted gaze. Even the servants seemed to be avoiding eye contact. Tom, I reached for him, but he stepped back. I think, Margaret said quietly, it would be best if you left. The walk to the door felt endless. Each step echoed against the marble floor, accompanied by whispers and judgmental stares. I'd come here planning to expose Margaret's true nature, but instead, I'd revealed my own. At the doorway, I turned back one last time. Tom stood frozen between his mother and Claire, looking lost and betrayed. Margaret's victory was complete. She'd managed to make me destroy myself without lifting a finger. Congratulations, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. You win. Oh, Ruth, Margaret smiled sadly. I won the moment you decided to play my game. Outside, the night air hit me like a slap. My phone buzzed, a message from Eleanor, I'm sorry. She found my phone. She knew we were meeting. Another buzz, Tom, I need time. A final message from Margaret, the invitation to the wedding will be in the mail. Do be a dear and don't attend. I sat in my car, staring at the Harrison mansion glowing warmly against the dark sky. Everything I'd fought against, everything I'd tried to prevent, had happened anyway. And worse, I'd proven Margaret right about me all along. The engine started with a quiet purr. As I pulled away from the curb, I caught a glimpse of movement in an upstairs window, Edward, watching me leave. In that moment, I finally understood him completely. Sometimes the price of fighting monsters isn't that you become one. It's that you realize you were capable of being one all along. The wedding invitation arrived exactly as Margaret promised. I stared at the cream-colored envelope for a long moment before reaching for my car keys instead. 3 weeks of silence was enough. The Whitmore mansion blazed with pre-wedding celebration lights. I parked across the street, watching the shadows of guests moving behind gauzy curtains. Then I saw her, Margaret, slipping out onto the balcony alone, a champagne flute in her trembling hand. Security was laughably easy to bypass. Years of library work had taught me every building had its service entrances, its quiet corners, its forgotten paths. Enjoying your victory? I stepped out of the shadows onto the balcony. Margaret didn't turn around. You shouldn't be here. Neither should you. I moved beside her, looking out over the manicured gardens. The Whitmores are going to find out eventually. About the fraud, about Eleanor's evidence, all of it. They already know. Her laugh was hollow. They've always known. Why do you think they insisted on this marriage? The pieces clicked into place. They're blackmailing you. Welcome to high society, dear. She drained her glass. Where everyone knows everyone else's secrets, and we all pretend not to notice the knives in our backs. Then why fight so hard to stay in it? Because the alternative is becoming nothing. Her voice cracked. Like I was before. Like you are now. The door behind us opened. Tom stood there, his bow tie askew, Claire's lipstick on his collar. The sight hit harder than I expected. Ruth. His voice was barely a whisper. Don't worry, I said. I'm not here to stop your wedding. Then why are you here? Margaret turned finally, her perfect mask slipping. To show you something. I pulled out my phone, opened the email I'd received that morning. The library board approved my proposal. We're starting a foundation for adult education. First-generation college students, single parents, people looking for second chances. Margaret's eyes narrowed. And I'm naming it after you. The champagne flute slipped from her fingers, shattering on the marble. Tom took a step forward, but I continued. the Margaret Harrison Second Chance Foundation. For people who want to change their lives without losing themselves. Like you could have, 35 years ago. You're mocking me. No. I'm offering you what you never offered anyone else, a way out that doesn't require destruction. The balcony fell silent except for the distant sounds of the party. Tom looked between us, understanding dawning in his eyes. The merger, he said slowly. The Whitmores, they're using something from your past? Margaret's hands gripped the balcony rail. Thomas. Tell him, I said quietly. Or I will. But this time, it won't be about revenge. It'll be about truth. She broke. The whole story spilled out, her humble beginnings, the original fraud, the years of covering it up. With each word, her perfect posture crumbled until she was just a woman, tired of carrying decades of lies. Tom listened silently, his face unreadable. When she finished, he looked at me. You knew all this? And you didn't use it? I learned from the best, I met Margaret's gaze, what happens when you let revenge consume you. The party music swelled inside, Claire's laugh carrying through the glass doors. Tom straightened his bow tie with trembling fingers. I have to go back in, he said. They're expecting. No. Margaret's voice was firm. No more expectations. No more perfect lies. She turned to me. Your foundation, does it need a board member? Mother? Tom's surprise mirrored my own. The Whitmores can't blackmail me with a past I'm not hiding anymore. She smiled, and for the first time, it reached her eyes. Besides, I have some experience with second chances now. I left them there, mother and son, their shadows merging in the balcony light. As I drove away, my phone buzzed with a text from Tom, wait for me? Sometimes the greatest victories come not from winning the game, but from changing its rules entirely. The Margaret Harrison Second Chance Foundation opened on a crisp autumn morning. I watched from the podium as Margaret cut the ribbon, her hands steady, her smile genuine. The crowd, a mix of society figures and future students, applauded politely, uncertain how to react to this new version of Margaret Harrison. Ready for the tour? I asked as the crowd dispersed. She ran her hand along the brass nameplate. It's smaller than I expected. We start small. Grow authentically. I led her through the converted warehouse. Like you could have, if you'd had the chance. Students were already filling the classrooms, their voices echoing through halls still smelling of fresh paint. A woman about Margaret's age sat in the front row of the computer literacy class, her work-worn hands hovering uncertainly over the keyboard. Margaret paused in the doorway. That could have been me. It still can be. I handed her a course catalog. The board position includes mandatory participation in at least one class. Her laugh was surprised, genuine. Clever girl. In the main office, Edward was hanging pictures, not of society galas or corporate mergers, but of real moments. Margaret's first day as a secretary. Eleanor's childhood home. The small church where Margaret and Edward had originally planned to marry, before society expectations changed everything. The Whitmores sent this. Margaret handed me an envelope. Inside was a check, a substantial one, and a note for second chances. They're not as powerful without secrets to hold over people, I observed. No, she agreed. None of us are. The afternoon sun slanted through the windows as we reached the library, my pride and joy. Tom was there, shelving books alongside my father. They'd been working together lately, Tom learning carpentry, Dad learning to trust again. The foundation's first donation, Margaret said, pulling a book from her bag. Her old secretary handbook, pages dog-eared and marked. For those who want to learn how to climb without falling. I placed it on the shelf marked New Beginnings. You know, Margaret said quietly, I spent so long trying to bury that scared young secretary, I forgot she was the strongest part of me. She still is. I touched the handbook's worn spine. Strong enough to start over. Eleanor arrived as we were closing up, leaning on her cane but standing straighter than I'd ever seen her. Well, this is certainly not what I expected when I gave you those documents. No, I agreed. It's better. The four of us, Eleanor, Margaret, Tom, and I, stood in the fading light of the library. Not quite whole, not quite healed, but something new taking shape. The board meets Tuesday mornings, I told Margaret. Business casual dress code. She smoothed her designer suit. I'll have to go shopping. I know a great thrift store, Eleanor offered, and for once, there was no barb in the suggestion. Tom slipped his hand into mine as they left, Margaret and Eleanor walking together, their shadows long in the setting sun. Think it'll work? He asked. I watched Margaret stop to help a student struggling with the door, saw the natural grace in the gesture. I think we all deserve the chance to try. We locked up together, the keys heavy in my hand. Through the window, I could see the foundation's motto etched in gold: every ending is a beginning in disguise. The anonymous letter that started everything still sat in my desk drawer. I took it out now, reading those angry words that had nearly driven me to destroy rather than create. Then I dropped it in the recycling bin. Some might call this a happy ending. But standing there in our imperfect creation, watching Margaret Harrison learn to be real instead of perfect, I realized it wasn't an ending at all. It was just the first step on a longer road, one where justice looked like growth instead of vengeance. Where victory meant changing hearts instead of breaking them, and where the hardest person to offer a second chance to is often yourself.
The letter arrived on a Tuesday, tucked between bills and junk mail like it wasn't about to blow my entire life apart. My mother's familiar handwriting jumped out at me immediately, which was impossible, since she'd been dead for 3 months. My name is Harper, and until that moment, I thought I had my life figured out. Good job, decent marriage, and enough stability to keep the existential dread at bay most days. But there I stood in my kitchen, holding an envelope that shouldn't exist, while my husband Noah's voice drifted in from the living room as he took another important call about potential job prospects. "This has to be old mail," I muttered, turning the envelope over. The postmark was from last week. My hands started shaking as I slid my finger under the flap. The sound of Noah's footsteps made me shove the letter into my jacket pocket. He appeared in the doorway, running a hand through his dark hair, a nervous tell I'd picked up on years ago. "Hey, babe. Any word from that consulting firm?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "They're still reviewing candidates." He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Listen, I need to borrow some money from your personal account. Mom and Dad are having trouble with their mortgage again." The letter seemed to burn against my ribs through the pocket. "Noah, we talked about this. We're already stretched thin covering both our expenses since you lost your job." "It's just temporary," he insisted, that familiar defensive edge creeping into his voice. "They helped us out when we first got married, remember?" I bit back what I really wanted to say. 3 months of temporary support was already straining our savings. But pointing that out would just lead to another argument about family loyalty and obligation, usually ending with me feeling like the villain for suggesting his parents figure out their own finances. "I'll think about it," I said instead, which was our code for "not really, but I don't want to fight right now." As soon as Noah left for another networking meeting at his favorite bar, I pulled out the letter with trembling fingers and began to read. "My dearest Harper, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and the timing is critical. I've arranged for this letter to be delivered 3 months after my death because I needed to be certain about something first. Check the loose floorboard in my old studio, the one by the window where you used to sit and watch me paint. What you'll find there will explain everything. But, sweetheart, be careful who you trust with this information. Sometimes the people closest to us have the most to gain from our silence. All my love, Mom." I sank into a kitchen chair, my mind racing. Mom's house, my childhood home, was sitting empty while I figured out what to do with it. Or at least it was supposed to be empty. But last week, I'd driven by and noticed lights on inside. I'd assumed it was just my imagination or maybe a timer I'd forgotten about.
My phone buzzed with a text from Noah. Having dinner with Mom and Dad. Don't wait up. I grabbed my keys before I could talk myself out of it. The drive to Mom's house took 20 minutes, each one filled with questions. What did she hide? Why wait 3 months? And why did her warning about trust make my stomach twist with dread? As I pulled up to the curb, my headlights swept across the front of the house and caught movement behind the living room curtains. Someone was definitely inside. I killed the engine and sat there, heart pounding, as a familiar car pulled into the driveway. Noah's car. The same one he was supposed to be taking to his parents' house across town. The porch light clicked on, and through the window, I saw my mother-in-law Evelyn's face, clear as day, inside my mother's house. I didn't confront them that night. Instead, I drove home in a daze, my mother's letter burning a hole in my pocket and questions burning holes in my mind. The next morning, I got ready for work like everything was normal, like I hadn't caught my husband and his mother sneaking around my dead mother's house. The promotion announcement came during the morning meeting. My boss beamed as she told everyone I'd be taking over as head of financial operations. Under different circumstances, this would have been the highlight of my year. Now it felt like one more match being tossed onto an already smoldering pile of kindling. Noah was waiting at home when I got back, sprawled on the couch with his laptop. "How was work?" he asked, not looking up. "I got the promotion." I kept my voice neutral, watching his reaction. His fingers stopped typing. "Oh." Just that one syllable, heavy with something that wasn't quite congratulations. "Have you told Mom and Dad yet?" "Why would I tell your parents before telling you?" He finally met my eyes. "They're coming over for dinner tonight. I thought we could celebrate as a family." My stomach clenched. "You invited them without asking me?" "Come on, Harper. They're just trying to be supportive." 2 hours later, I was setting the table while Evelyn hovered in my kitchen, rearranging my spice rack to make more sense. Every time I looked at her, I remembered her silhouette in my mother's window. "Noah tells us you got a promotion," Walter said from his seat at the head of my table, a spot he always claimed without asking. "That's quite a responsibility. Are you sure you're ready for that kind of pressure?" "I've been doing most of the work already," I replied, placing down the last fork with perhaps more force than necessary. "The title just makes it official." Evelyn turned from the spice rack. "But surely with Noah between positions right now, you'll want to focus more on supporting him? A wife's primary duty is to her husband, after all." I caught Noah's slight wince. He opened his mouth, probably to change the subject, but I was done playing nice. "Actually," I said, "my primary duty is to my career, which is currently supporting this entire household." The room went silent. Walter's face darkened, and Evelyn pressed her hand to her chest like I'd physically struck her. "Harper," Noah warned quietly. "No, let's talk about it," I continued, surprising myself with how steady my voice was. "Let's talk about how I'm paying our mortgage, our bills, and somehow still finding money to help with your parents' expenses. Let's talk about why you were at my mother's house last night when you told me you were having dinner with them." The color drained from Noah's face. Evelyn's hand dropped from her chest, and her expression shifted from shocked to calculated. "We were simply checking on the property," she said smoothly. "As family, we feel responsible for helping maintain it while you're dealing with your grief." "That's interesting," I replied, considering I never gave anyone permission to enter the house. "Noah has a key," Walter cut in. "And as your husband, as my husband, he has no legal right to that property. It's not in his name." Noah stood up suddenly. "Can we discuss this later? In private." "Why?" I challenged. "So, you can come up with better excuses?" "You're being hysterical," Evelyn said, her voice dripping with concern that didn't reach her eyes. "This is exactly why we worry about you taking on too much responsibility. The stress is clearly affecting your judgment." I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that seemed to startle everyone, including myself. "My judgment is just fine. In fact, it's never been clearer." I pulled my mother's letter from my pocket and placed it on the table. "Would anyone like to explain why my dead mother felt the need to warn me about trusting the people closest to me?" The silence that followed was deafening. Noah stared at the letter like it was a snake about to strike. But it was Evelyn's reaction that confirmed my suspicions, the flash of recognition in her eyes before she could hide it. "What exactly did you find in my mother's studio?" I asked quietly. "And how long have you been looking for it?" After the disastrous dinner, I spent hours combing through our bank statements. The truth revealed itself in a series of small withdrawals, each one a paper cut to my trust in Noah. He'd been moving money to his parents' account for months, thousands of dollars hidden behind vague descriptions like household expenses and maintenance fees. The next morning, I found Noah in the kitchen, making coffee like it was any other day. The sight of him standing there, so casual, made my blood boil. "Want to explain these transfers?" I slid the printed statements across the counter. He glanced at them, then away. "I was going to tell you."
When?
"After you'd emptied our savings." "They needed help with their mortgage," he said, his voice taking on that defensive tone I'd grown to hate. "Dad's pension isn't covering everything since the market crashed. So, you decided to secretly drain our account instead of having an adult conversation about it? Because I knew you'd react like this." He slammed his coffee mug down. "You don't understand what it's like having parents who actually need you. Your mom left you that house, plus whatever she hid in that studio. What exactly did your mother find there?" I cut in, watching his face carefully. He froze for a split second, long enough to confirm he knew something. "Nothing. We were just cleaning." "Cleaning what?" "The floorboards." The moment I said it, his eyes widened slightly. "That's it, isn't it? You found my mom's letter somehow. You knew about the loose floorboard. Harper, did you find what she hid there? Is that why you've all been sneaking around my house?" Instead of answering, he pulled out his phone. I watched in disbelief as he typed out a message. "Are you texting your mother right now? She needs to be part of this conversation." I grabbed my car keys. "No, she really doesn't." "Where are you going?" "To my mother's house. And if I find your parents there again, they have nowhere else to go." The words exploded out of him. "The bank foreclosed on their house 2 months ago. They've been staying at Mom's place because—" "My mother's house," I corrected coldly. "And what exactly is Mom's place?" He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture that used to make me want to comfort him. Now, it just looked manipulative. "Mom says she and your mother had an arrangement. Something about shared ownership or—" I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. "My mother would never agree to that. She didn't even like Evelyn." "That's not true. They were close. Mom has proof." "What proof?" But he was already texting again, probably warning them I was coming. I left him standing there, his excuses following me out the door. The drive to my mother's house felt different this time. Every memory of the past few months shifted, taking on new meaning. Noah's late-night networking meetings. The way Evelyn had pushed to help organize Mom's belongings after the funeral. The mysterious disappearance of some of Mom's paintings. When I pulled up to the house, Evelyn was waiting on the porch like she owned the place. Maybe in her mind, she did. "Harper, dear," she called out, all sugary concern. "Noah said you were upset. Let's talk about this rationally." I walked past her into the house, my house, and headed straight for the studio. The room still smelled like oil paints and turpentine, but something was off. The furniture had been rearranged, and Mom's easel was missing. I knelt by the window, running my fingers along the floorboards. The loose one was gone, replaced with a new board that didn't quite match the others. "We had to fix it," Evelyn said from the doorway. "It was a safety hazard. But don't worry, we kept everything we found. Your mother's letter mentioned some important documents." I stood up slowly, fury burning through my veins. "What documents?" "The deed to the house, of course. And the agreement she and I made about shared ownership." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You understand now why we had to take matters into our own hands. We're family, after all." I spent that night in a hotel, ignoring Noah's calls and trying to make sense of Evelyn's claims. The next morning, I did something I should have done weeks ago. I called my mother's lawyer, Marcus. "I was wondering when you'd contact me," he said, his voice grave. "I've been trying to reach you about some concerning activity with your mother's accounts." My stomach dropped. What kind of activity? Someone's been attempting to access her safety deposit box using an old power of attorney document. The bank flagged it as suspicious since the document appeared to be dated after your mother's death. I gripped my phone tighter. Let me guess, Evelyn Prescott? You know about this? I'm learning more every day. I took a deep breath. Marcus, I need to know, did my mother ever make any agreement about shared ownership of the house with Evelyn? Absolutely not. His voice sharpened. In fact, your mother specifically amended her will 3 months before her death to ensure the house would be solely yours. She was quite insistent about keeping the Prescotts away from her property. I closed my eyes, remembering Mom's letter. Sometimes the people closest to us have the most to gain from our silence. Harper, Marcus continued, there's something else. Your mother left specific instructions about the contents of her studio. She said you'd know where to look. The floorboard's been replaced. Whatever was there is gone. Then we have a serious problem. Those documents weren't just about the house. Before he could explain further, my phone buzzed with a text from Noah. Coming to the hotel. We need to talk. Found something you should see. I have to go, I told Marcus. But I need copies of everything. The will, the amendments, all of it. I'll send them right over. And Harper, be careful. Your mother was worried about. About what? About how far certain people would go to protect their interests. 20 minutes later, Noah knocked on my hotel room door. He looked terrible, like he hadn't slept all night. Before you say anything, he started, pulling out a folder. You need to see these. Inside were photographs, dozens of them, of my mother and Evelyn together. Shopping, having lunch, looking like close friends. The most recent ones were dated just weeks before Mom died. See? Noah's voice was almost pleading. They were friends. Mom wasn't lying about that. I picked up one photo, studying it carefully. These are fake.
What?
No, they're. My mother broke her wrist 6 months before she died. She wore a brace for weeks. I held up the supposedly recent photo. No brace. And her hair was different by then. These are old photos, probably from years ago, digitally dated to look recent. Noah's face fell, but Mom said, your mother is trying to steal my house, Noah. She forged documents, broke in, and took whatever my mom left in that studio. And you've been helping her. They needed somewhere to live. The foreclosure. Stop. My voice cracked. Just stop lying. I talked to Marcus. Mom specifically changed her will to keep your family away from the house. She knew something like this would happen. Harper, please. They're still my parents. We can figure something out.
We.
I laughed bitterly. There is no we anymore. You chose your side the moment you started emptying our accounts behind my back. His expression hardened.
Fine.
Then you should know Mom found documents in the studio. Legal papers that prove she has a claim to the house. If you force this, it'll get ugly. It's already ugly. I opened the door. Tell your mother she has 24 hours to get out of my house before I file charges for breaking and entering, theft, and fraud. You wouldn't. I met his eyes. Try me. After he left, I checked my email. Marcus had sent the will documents, along with a cryptic message. Found something interesting in your mother's old financial records. Call me ASAP. My phone buzzed again, another text from Noah. Mom says to remember what happened to the paintings. I froze, suddenly understanding. The missing artwork, the forged documents, the desperate attempts to access Mom's safety deposit box. This wasn't just about the house. This was about what my mother had hidden and what the Prescotts would do to get it. Marcus's office was a maze of filing cabinets and leather-bound books. But what caught my attention was the painting on his wall, one of my mother's landscapes that had gone missing from her studio. Evelyn sold it to me last week, he said, following my gaze. Said she was handling the estate sale. I knew something wasn't right. I sank into the chair across from his desk. What did you find in the financial records? He pulled out a thick folder. Your mother was investigating Walter Prescott's old engineering firm. Specifically, their involvement in a series of construction projects that collapsed 10 years ago. 3 people died. My hands started shaking. What does that have to do with my mother? She was an artist, yes, but she also did forensic accounting work. She found evidence of fraudulent inspections, falsified safety reports, all signed off by Walter. The pieces started falling into place. That's what she hid in the studio. Proof of their corruption. And now they're desperate to find it. Marcus leaned forward. The statute of limitations on criminal charges has expired, but civil suits? Those could still bankrupt them. My phone buzzed. Noah again. We need to talk. Found a solution everyone can live with. They're trying to make a deal, I said. Marcus's expression darkened. Be careful. People who've covered up deaths once won't hesitate to do it again. I stood up. I need copies of everything. Already done. But Harper, there's more. Your mother's safety deposit box? It doesn't contain documents. It contains a key to a storage unit. Before I could respond, another text came through. This time from an unknown number. Your mother should have minded her own business. Like mother, like daughter? I showed Marcus the message. His face went pale. Your mother's death wasn't investigated thoroughly, he said quietly. The medical examiner ruled it natural causes, but what? She left me a letter too. Said if anything happened to her, I should look closer at her medication. The world tilted sideways. I gripped the edge of his desk, remembering how often Evelyn had helped during Mom's final weeks, organizing her pills, bringing her food. My phone rang. Noah again. This time I answered. Come home, he said. Mom has a proposition. We can fix this. Fix what? The fraud? The theft? Or my mother's murder? There was a long pause. What are you talking about? Ask your parents about the construction projects. Ask them what really happened to my mother. Harper, you're not thinking clearly. Just come home. We can work this out as a family. Family? I laughed, the sound bordering on hysteria. Your family killed my mother. That's a serious accusation. A new voice said, Evelyn listening in. Be very careful about what you say next, dear. Grief can make people imagine terrible things. I thought about Mom's letter, her warning about trust, her final weeks of illness. 24 hours, I said. Get out of my house and return everything you took, or I'm going to the police with everything I have. You have nothing, Evelyn snapped, dropping her sweet facade. And if you're smart, you'll keep it that way. Some accidents are easier to arrange than others. The line went dead. I looked at Marcus, my hands still shaking but my mind suddenly clear. I need a forensic team at the house, I said. And I need to access that storage unit before they do. They'll be watching you. Let them. I pulled out my mother's letter, reading it again. Sometimes the people closest to us have the most to gain from our silence. I'm done being quiet. As I left his office, my phone buzzed one last time. Noah, don't make me choose between you and my family. I typed back 4 words. You already did.
Goodbye.
Then I turned off my phone and headed for the storage facility. It was time to finish what my mother started. The storage unit key felt heavy in my pocket as I pulled up to my mother's house. Something was wrong. The front door stood slightly open, and Noah's car wasn't the only one in the driveway. Walter's truck loomed like a threat. I called Marcus. They're here. The police are on their way. Don't go inside. But through the window, I could see them ransacking Mom's studio. Evelyn was pulling books from shelves while Walter attacked the walls with a hammer, looking for hidden compartments. And Noah was going through Mom's remaining paintings with a box cutter. I was through the door before I could stop myself. Get away from those. They all froze. Noah dropped the box cutter, looking guilty. But Walter and Evelyn's expressions were different, calculated, dangerous. Harper, Evelyn said smoothly. We were just doing some renovations. By destroying my mother's art? My voice shook. Or are you looking for more evidence of Walter's negligence? How many people died because of those falsified reports? Walter stepped forward, his face dark. You don't know what you're talking about. 3 families lost people they loved because you cut corners. And when my mother figured it out, she should have kept her mouth shut. Evelyn snapped. Just like you should. Noah moved between us. Everyone needs to calm down. Harper, we can work this out. Just tell us what's in the storage unit. The betrayal hit like a physical blow. You followed me to Marcus's office. We had to, he said, almost pleading. You're not thinking clearly. This could ruin everyone's lives. Your father already ruined lives. And your mother. I turned to Evelyn, rage burning through my fear. What did you put in her medication? How long did you plan it? Careful, dear. Evelyn's voice turned ice cold. Accusations like that could be dangerous. Grief can make people unstable. Accidents happen. Is that what happened to my mother? An accident. Walter stepped closer. Where's the storage unit key? The police are on their way. No, they're not, Noah said quietly. I saw you make that call. You were bluffing. The walls seemed to close in. I backed toward the door, but Walter was faster. He grabbed my arm, his fingers digging in painfully. The key, he demanded.
Now.
Let her go, Noah said, but his voice was weak, uncertain. Stay out of this, Walter snapped. You've done enough damage, letting her run wild like this. I twisted free, but Evelyn was behind me, blocking the exit. Think about Noah, she said. Do you really want to destroy his family? Just give us the key, and this can all go away. Like my mother went away? Something shifted in her eyes, not guilt, but satisfaction. She made her choice, just like you're making yours. I reached into my pocket, felt the key's metal edges. One move could end this. Give them what they wanted, walk away, pretend none of this happened. Save what was left of my marriage, my safety, my life. But I saw my mother's paintings in shreds on the floor. Saw the hammer holes in her studio walls. Remembered her final weeks, growing weaker while Evelyn helped with her medication. I pulled out my phone instead of the key. What are you doing? Walter demanded, sending evidence to every news outlet in the state. My fingers flew over the screen. Mom's findings, Marcus's investigation, proof of your fraud. Walter lunged. The phone went flying. I heard it crack against the wall as his hands closed around my throat. Dad, stop. Noah's shout seemed far away. Get the key, Walter growled. Evelyn's hands were in my pockets as I struggled to breathe. She pulled out the key with a triumphant cry. Walter released me. I collapsed, gasping, as they rushed out. The sound of car engines starting filled the air. Noah stood frozen, looking between me and the door. Help me, I wheezed. He took a step back. I'm sorry. Then he was gone too, leaving me alone in my mother's ruined studio, surrounded by the wreckage of everything I'd believed in. My phone lay shattered nearby, the evidence unsent. And somewhere across town, they were heading for a storage unit that contained nothing but empty boxes, because my mother had taught me well. Sometimes the best revenge is letting your enemies think they've won. The real evidence was somewhere else entirely. And now I knew exactly what I had to do with it. The storage unit was empty, just as I'd planned. But I wasn't at the police station, where they'd expect me to go next. Instead, I stood in the gallery where my mother had held her last show, watching through the windows as Noah's car pulled up outside. They'd figured out soon enough. Mom's real evidence wasn't in a storage unit or hidden under floorboards. It was hanging right here, hidden in plain sight. Evelyn burst through the door first, her face flushed with rage. Where is it? Look around, I said, gesturing to the paintings on the walls. Mom always said art reveals truth if you know how to look. Walter stormed in behind her, followed by Noah. Stop playing games. Not playing. I walked to the largest painting, the one Mom had finished just before she died. Did you ever wonder why she insisted this piece stay in the gallery? Why she made sure it was properly insured? They stared at the canvas, a seemingly abstract swirl of colors and shapes. But hidden within the chaos were documents, photographs, numbers. Mom had turned Walter's fraud into art, embedding the evidence in layers of paint and texture. That's nothing but colors, Evelyn scoffed, but her voice shook. The insurance company's forensic team disagrees. They've already documented everything. And the original documents? I smiled. Currently being reviewed by the district attorney. Walter lunged for the painting. I stepped between them. Touch it, and the alarm triggers. Police response time is 3 minutes. You're bluffing, Noah said. Like you were bluffing about the police before. Check your phone. The story's already breaking. They all pulled out their phones. I watched their faces as they saw the headlines. Fatal construction collapse. New evidence reveals cover-up. You've destroyed this family, Evelyn hissed.
No.
You did that when you killed my mother. You can't prove that, she said, but her hands were shaking. Actually, I can. Mom documented her symptoms, had her blood tested privately. The results were part of what she hid in the studio, until you found them. That's why you rushed to get rid of her paintings, wasn't it? Afraid she'd hidden more evidence in her art. Walter grabbed Evelyn's arm. We need to go. Now. Running won't help, I said. The police are already. Shut up. Walter spun toward me, his control finally snapping. You think you're so clever? Your mother thought the same thing. Right until the end. Noah stepped between us. Dad, stop. Move, Walter growled.
No.
Noah's voice was quiet but firm. I've helped cover up enough. Evelyn's face contorted. After everything we've done for you. You killed her mother. Noah's words cut through the air like glass. You've been bleeding us dry for months. And now I find out about the construction deaths? When does it end? It ends now, I said, as police sirens filled the air. The gallery's surrounded. Has been since you walked in. Walter made one last grab for the painting. Noah caught his arm, wrestling him back as officers flooded through the doors. I watched them lead Walter and Evelyn away in handcuffs, their rights being read over Evelyn's protests and Walter's threats. Noah stood apart, looking lost. I didn't know, he said quietly. About your mom. About any of it. I should have, but you didn't want to know, I finished. That's why we're done. Harper. The divorce papers are with my lawyer, along with evidence of the money you took from our accounts. I turned away from his stricken face. Some things can't be fixed. As the gallery cleared out, I stood alone before my mother's final painting. Up close, you could see the truth hidden in every brushstroke, not just the evidence of Walter's crimes, but a message from Mom herself, worked into the pattern. The truth always comes to light. She'd known they'd kill her for discovering their secret, but she'd made sure the truth wouldn't die with her. She'd turned it into art, knowing I'd understand eventually. I touched the canvas gently. I get it now, Mom. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about making sure they can't destroy the truth. Behind me, the gallery doors closed on the sound of sirens, marking the end of one story and the beginning of another. 6 months after the arrests, I stood in my mother's studio, finally ready to repair the damage. The walls had been patched, but I'd left her paintings untouched, their torn edges a reminder of how quickly things can unravel. The trial was set for spring. Walter and Evelyn had pleaded not guilty, but the evidence Mom had woven into her art was damning. 3 families from the construction collapse had joined the civil suit, their years of silence finally broken. I picked up a torn canvas, running my fingers along its jagged edge. The doorbell rang. Noah stood on the porch, looking older somehow. The divorce papers are signed. You could have mailed them. I wanted to return this. He held out a small key, the one to Mom's house. And to tell you I'm testifying against them. The DA offered a deal. I took the key without touching his hand. Why now? Because your mother deserved better. You deserved better. He shifted uncomfortably. They found more evidence in Dad's old files. Other projects, other cover-ups. How many? Too many. He turned to leave, then stopped. I'm sorry I wasn't stronger. I watched him walk away for the last time, feeling nothing but a quiet certainty that I'd made the right choice. Back in the studio, I noticed something odd about the newly patched wall, a slight discoloration near the baseboard. Kneeling down, I pressed against it. A small panel popped open. Inside was a leather-bound journal and another letter in Mom's handwriting. My dearest Harper, if you're reading this, you've already learned the hard truth about strength, that it often comes from standing alone. The journal contains everything I couldn't put into my paintings. But more importantly, it contains the story of how I learned to stand up for myself. You'll find the deed to the gallery in here too. I bought it years ago under a different name. It's yours now. The Prescotts never knew about it. Some secrets are meant to protect, not harm. Remember, art isn't just about beauty. Sometimes it's about showing the world what others try to hide. All my love, Mom. I opened the journal, recognizing the names of other construction projects, other families who'd lost loved ones. Mom hadn't just documented Walter's crimes, she'd created a record of every voice that had been silenced. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. 3 more families have come forward. You were right about the pattern. I looked around the studio, at the torn paintings, the patched walls, the hidden panel that had protected truth when everything else fell apart. Then I pulled out my laptop and started typing. My name is Harper Calloway, and this is a story about justice. Not the kind that comes from revenge, but the kind that comes from refusing to stay silent. The words flowed easily now, telling not just my story or my mother's, but all the stories that had been buried under years of manipulation and fear. The manuscript would take months to complete, but I had time. The truth had waited this long. It deserved to be told right. Later that evening, I hung one of Mom's restored paintings in the gallery, not the one that had exposed Walter's crimes, but a smaller piece I'd never fully understood before. It showed a woman standing alone in a storm, her face turned toward the light breaking through clouds. The plaque beneath it read, "Strength by Clara Calloway." As I locked up the gallery, my phone buzzed again. An unknown number. "You're just like your mother. This isn't over." I smiled, thinking of the journal in my bag, the manuscript on my laptop, and all the stories yet to be told. "No," I whispered to the empty gallery. "It's just beginning." Because Mom was right, some secrets protect, others destroy. The trick is knowing which ones to keep, and which ones need to be transformed into art for the whole world to see. I turned off the lights, leaving the painting of the woman in the storm glowing softly in the darkness. Her face still turned toward the breaking light.